calling this monthly board meeting to order. We will have the territorial acknowledgement and then stand for the singing of O Canada.
We would like to acknowledge
We would like to acknowledge
We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather here today
was used by the Haudenosaunee,
Anishinaabe, and Neutral people.
We also acknowledge the enduring presence
and deep traditional knowledge
les lois et les philosophies traditionnelles
of the indigenous people
with whom we share this land today.
With whom we share this land today.
With whom we share this land today.
There's a slight amendment to the agenda. The Math Achievement Action Plan will be the first of our reports. So we'll have the Math Achievement Action Plan, then the accessibility update and the report on this streaming. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Trustee Wasim, seconded by Trustee Meisner. All in favor? And that is carried. So tonight we are going to recognize our two student trustees who have come to the end of their term. I'm going to ask Trustee Johnson to do the honors.
Thank you, through the chair. Tonight, we acknowledge our two student trustees as they finish off their year. Devansh Lakanpal, immediately to my left, and Fei Young Lo, second to my left. It has truly been a delight to work with you both this year, and while I am sad to see you move on, I'm proud of you both for all you have accomplished this year. Devansh graduated from Jacob Hesper Secondary School this year. He was a valedictorian at convocation and also received a Principal's Award. He launched the menstrual equity program across the school board, along with the student colleague group. They pitched the initiative to our facilities department that led to a pilot program that involved ministry input. Also, he worked behind the scenes. I think it's important to note working behind the scenes. It's easy to do things that is going to get you noticed in the paper or noticed at a board meeting, but working behind the scenes, it shows an extra level of dedication. He worked behind the scenes and advocated for student academic concerns that arose throughout the year. Fei Young Lo graduated from the IB program at Cameron Heights this year while also working on his Bright Pages project. It's a youth-led nonprofit dedicated to enhancing educational accessibility and supporting rehabilitation and reintegration by doing book drives to provide educational materials to inmates. Devansh and Fei Young brought student voice to the board table in several committees. Plus, they co-hosted student roundtables where they facilitated discussions with their peers on topics such as vaping, mental health, facilities, finances, and other topics of interest to students. And I also want to thank Student Engagement Officer Delia Lovelace for her work supporting these great students and her passion for student leadership. Devansh and Fei Young, thank you for your dedication and commitment to all our WRDSB students this year. You brought vision and kindness to everything you did, and I really enjoyed getting to know you. I wish you both all the best next year.
And at this time, I'll mention that Trustee Weston, who is the other student trustee mentor, sends her regrets. She's unable to be with us this evening. Tonight, I would also like to recognize Superintendent Pam Kaur, Superintendent of Wellbeing. Superintendent Kaur is retiring, and we were not able to recognize her at our previous celebration. So this is Superintendent Kaur's last board meeting with us. I had the pleasure of being a colleague in the years before my retirement of Superintendent Kaur, and tonight the Board of Trustees would like to thank you for your contributions to the WRDSB. Superintendent Kaur, you helped open our thinking to consider new perspectives and ways of doing. You always centered the well-being of students, demonstrating deep understanding of the often invisible challenges that they faced. We will miss your insight and wisdom, but know that you will at last have the opportunity to follow other interests and to learn and grow in different ways. So we know that you're a skilled artist with a published book, Painted Birds, an alphabet book, which you also illustrated. Maybe there will be others, maybe something else. Whatever the future brings, we wish you all the best and hope for you a fun-filled and healthy retirement. Thank you for all you have done for the Waterloo Region District School Board. Trustees, are there any celebrations? Trustee Meisner?
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say that on Friday, June 13th, myself, along with Superintendent Newlands and Director Miller, visited Mary Johnson Public Schools Library. We were welcomed there by Principal Orr and Library Clerk Laura Shaver. It was truly an honor to be invited to such an important place within the school. Laura was an amazing host and began the visit with her reading a book to one of the grade 3 classes. And afterwards, we were able to chat with Laura as she spoke about her passion with us for the library and how important this space was for all the kiddos at the school. After that, we were able to connect with some of the kids and see what they were doing. Well, some of them were reading quietly in small groups. Others were working on their year-end cupcake puzzle, which ended in lengthy, energetic debates about the merits of a perfect cupcake, which was definitely entertaining for us. All in all, it was a great visit, and it was a good way to see how important the library is to all students at that school.
Thank you. Trustee Piakowski?
Thank you. Through you to trustees. Last Thursday, it was my absolute pleasure to speak at the commencement ceremony for Eastwood Collegiate Institute, my alma mater. Of course, all of my teachers have left, but their names live on through awards and scholarships. So it was nice to see that and just to experience the joyful celebration that every commencement is. And I'm actually going to preview an event that I'm going to on Thursday, which I don't want to wait until September to share that I've done it. So that is Bluevale's commencement, and speaking there for the second time in the last 3 years, and thanking the outgoing principal.
Thank you. Trustee Woodcock.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I had the pleasure and the honor of attending the commencement exercises last Friday of Waterloo Oxford District Secondary School at the Center in the Square. It was a very large graduating class. They had around 280 graduates attending, and they were all assembled on the big stage, and they opened the curtain, and it's so exciting, and the parents go wild. It's great. And it's just, I felt like I was at a concert. And Associate Director Lemon was also there, and we were very interested in some of the future plans of the graduates. The parents, the most exciting moment was when the kids on the stage were told to find their significant parent, wherever they were, in an audience of 2,000 people, and then they were supposed to wave at them. So the audience erupted in waving and calling, and it was a great little moment shared. It was a really, really, these were kids graduating who started grade 9 during COVID, and they have worked hard, and as all the graduating classes are, and it's they've overcome a lot to get there, and they've done a great, great job.
Thank you. Trustee Wasim.
Thank you. On June 13th, I had the absolute pleasure of joining Huron Heights Secondary School for their commencement ceremony. I was so thoroughly impressed by how smoothly the staff had put together this ceremony. It started off with a wonderful, acknowledgement of Indigenous perspectives, followed by an activity that one of the teachers conducted where they read out some of the advice that students had written to themselves back in their grade 9 year when they started high school, and it was now being shared with them now that they're walking across the graduation stage. Some of the advice included everything from, I hope you get buff to I hope you get taller, all the way to be brave and be bold. So just really wonderful to hear those perspectives. I want to especially thank Huron Heights teacher Michelle and the principal of the school, Jennifer, as well as Superintendent Bobby Chata, who was also present at the ceremony. It was a beautiful event, and the Huron Huskies community really brought the energy. So huge congratulations to everyone who was graduating that night.
Thank you. Trustee Johnson.
Thank you, through the chair. On Friday, June 20th, I enjoyed joining GCI at their graduation at Binghamton's. It was fun sitting with Superintendent Collis, us two tall women, and I was happy to bring greetings on behalf of the board. It was such a fun night. You could tell there was a special energy in the air that night. The GCI ghosts were just so excited to be graduating, and they were just, everything that happened, they were just absorbing it all with so much joy. So congratulations to our GCI ghosts. And this Wednesday, I will be joining I'll be at the graduation with Glenview Park. So looking forward to that. And Glenview Park Secondary School. And I might be stealing some thunder. Last Wednesday, June the 18th, Spectrum had their 4th annual gala. I got to go for my first time, and that was so much fun. And it was fun being there with Trustee Radlin, Director Miller, and Associate Director Lemon.
Thank you. I have a couple celebrations of my own. On last Tuesday, I was at Grove Public School with the staff of the new Willow River Public School. So Principal Coyle and staff welcomed intermediate students who will be there in September. Grade 6s and 7s came from the different sending schools, and they got to know each other, make new friends, got to meet the teacher. It was a great evening with games and a really great way to help the students connect to make beginning a new school less threatening and less anxiety causing. So I really want to thank Principal Coyle and her staff. I think they had 3 or 4 events where they had, kindergarten up to grade 7 there to meet their new classmates, and I think that's a wonderful initiative, and families were very appreciative of the opportunity for their students to connect and feel safe. Trustee Piakowski joined me there as well. And I also, like other trustees, have been attending graduations as at KCI with Superintendent Albrecht, and as people have mentioned, it's always wonderful to be at these events and to see students, benefit. Well, you see them going on to their next stage, and many of them starting their way towards their dreams. So thank you. And you know how good teachers are when you go to things like graduations or Kodai, and you see how slickly they run, because getting 300 students to do what they're supposed to is not an easy task. So thank you, everybody, for that. And now we go on to our communications good news update. Manager Hughes.
Through the chair to the board, good evening. I'm pleased to present to you the good news update for June. Throughout the presentation, you will see highlights of the strategic plan in action. This month, we are featuring the engaging ways students are learning both inside and outside the classroom. From music, artwork, and robotics to extracurricular activities, fundraisers, and athletics, students and staff are making an impact on their schools and their communities. We also include a summary of our media coverage for the month, and it highlights the incredible learning opportunities at the WRDSB. This presentation was prepared by the Communications Department, and I want to thank them for developing the content and the video. Please enjoy the June Good News Update.
We're pleased to share the Good News Update for June 2025. This month, we're sharing the incredible efforts of students, staff, and community members in support of student learning. Our stories are aligned with the most relevant strategic direction, although each of them touches multiple directions in our strategic plan. To celebrate the end of another fundraising campaign in support of Kids Ability, schools from across the region, including Westvale Public School, Sandown Public School, and Chicopee Hills Public School, gathered students for their superpower celebrations. Whether running in the field, dancing in the gymnasium, or just finding their own ways to celebrate, the schools and students did a tremendous job. Together, they helped to raise more than $45,000, which will support students across the region meet their developmental, social, and physical goals. Thank you to all who supported our campaign and helped our community continue to enable access for all students. Preston High School brought the spirit of community back in full force with their first Inside Ride event since the COVID-19 pandemic. The gym was alive with music, cheering, and movement as 24 teams of 6 riders took turns cycling for 10 minutes in an exciting 1-hour relay. Thank you to the Preston community, which raised more than $18,000 for the Canadian Cancer Society. Well done. More than 120 students from 12 schools across the Waterloo region came together for a day of workshops, lessons, networking, and exciting robotics challenges at MechMania. The event was led by Waterloo Collegiate Institute students who previously received an entrepreneurship grant following a pitch to the Smart Waterloo Region Innovations Lab panel. Alpine School proudly marked its 50th anniversary with an open house celebration. Staff and students worked together to host an evening filled with engaging activities, including face painting, art displays, and interactive games. The celebration honored the school's legacy while shining a spotlight on the achievements and talents of today's Alpine students. Staff and community members participated in the annual WEFI Golf Tournament, raising vital funds to support the Waterloo Region District School Board students. Thanks to the dedication of organizers, volunteers, and donors, the event helps fund essential programs, such as school nutrition programs, and provides students with gym uniforms, school supplies, and access to extracurricular activities. The tournament not only brought the community together, but also directly contributed to reducing barriers to learning for many students. 16 grade 12 students across the WRDSB received the 2024-2025 Past Directors Bursary during the last month's meeting. The selected students will receive the bursary to support them in pursuing a trade through college or apprenticeship programs. Congratulations to all those who were selected. We look forward to seeing where your continued learning will take you. In a recent Student Voice story, we hear from Grow Public School students about how they worked with Sustainable Waterloo Region to bring a microforest to their schoolyard. Supported by volunteers, the students planted 9 different species of trees. The new microforest will help to encourage students to learn and play outdoors. In an event unlike any other, students from different regions and school boards met at Elmira District Secondary School to participate in the annual Tin Man Triathlon. Students were able to compete solo or as relay teams to complete the challenges of swimming, cycling, and running. As one student put it, you don't have to be an Ironman to participate. You can be a Tin Man. This statement echoes the ethos of the initiative, showcasing that everyone can add physical activity to their lifestyle. Congratulations to all the athletes, organizers, volunteers, and staff who helped make this event a success. Earlier this month, members from our senior team took part in the conversation during the Nourished Futures Breakfast in support of Nutrition for Learning. Featuring perspectives from emerging leaders and youth advocates in conversation with Nutrition for Learning CEO Erin Morrigan, attendees heard about topics such as isolation, hunger, mental health, and well-being. These are important conversations which are sure to have a lasting and positive impact on our community. June is National Indigenous History Month. This important time allows us to honor the voices, experiences, and contributions of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people, and to reflect on their strength, knowledge, and continued presence across the land. Throughout the month, students and staff had the opportunity to attend events, engaging in learning opportunities, and access resources and reflections that echo the theme that we are all connected. Thank you to all of the staff, students, and community partners who are joining us as we continue to learn about the cultural richness and diverse histories of Indigenous peoples. The month of June is nationally recognized as Pride Month in Canada. Since 2016, WRDSB has proudly raised the Pride flag at every building across our school board as a symbol of recognition and support to the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, while also marking the beginning of Pride Month. This long-standing tradition reflects our deep commitment to equity and inclusion. We know that students who feel seen, supported, and respected are more likely to thrive academically and personally. Pictured here are Pride flag raising events from across the WRDSB. Thank you to all of the wonderful staff, students, and community members who help make our spaces safer and more inclusive so that everyone can feel a sense of belonging and pride. What started as a single Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles drawing turned into a sprawling 35-foot-long creative masterpiece by grade 2 students at the John Mahood Public School. Under the students' enthusiastic leadership at the Extended Day program, the poster grew into a collaborative effort involving 10 other students who treated the process like a real creative business. Their dedication, innovation, and pure joy in creating something together is a testament to the power of student-led projects and peer collaboration. The senior songwriting and recording class at Eastwood Collegiate Institute achieved national recognition after earning first place in their category of the CBC Music Class Challenge. The students' powerful performance of The Returner by Allison Russell showcased an impressive range of interdisciplinary art skills, including instrumental and vocal music, strings, visual arts, drama, dance, and production technology. This recognition highlighted not only the students' creative excellence, but also the dedication of staff who supported the integration of multiple art forms. Congratulations to these talented students and staff. In preparation for its official opening in September, Willow River Public School hosted a series of community-building events throughout June to welcome incoming students and families. Staff members volunteered their time to plan and lead engaging grade-specific gatherings at 3 main schools from which students would be joining. These events aim to foster early connections between students, families, and educators before they begin their learning journey together on the first day of school. Across the region, school communities are celebrating the class of 2025 in commencement ceremonies filled with pride, reflection, and hopes for the future. It's a joyous opportunity to recognize students for their achievements, growth, and future pathways. Among the graduates this year is student trustee Fei Young Lau. As our graduates prepare to take their next steps, we commend them for their hard work and wish them every success in the journey ahead. Connor and Harrison, students at Elmira District Secondary School, have been learning about the significance of Indigenous artists through their NBE course. Their research led them to commission Maggie, a talented grade 12 student and member of Long Point First Nation from Winnoway, Quebec, to create a mural. The final piece is a beautiful representation of Indigenous culture and storytelling. The impact from students, staff, and community members across the WRDSB was reflected in the news this month. As covered in 570 News, the Waterloo Region District School Board has been recognized with the Roots and Shoots Award by Sustainable Waterloo Region for our collaboration in bringing microforests to 22 schools across the board. CTV visited Fabled Fashion, a second-hand clothing pop-up shop that runs on donations from the school community. Run by students at Jacob Hespeler Secondary School, the free clothing swap was created to promote inclusivity and self-expression. Cambridge Today helped to promote the opening of registration for the WRDSB before and after school programs on June 16th. Hosted on the CBC website, Claire, a student from the Kitchener-Waterloo Collegiate and Vocational School, has been recognized as a winner with a first page student writing challenge for grades 7 to 9. She will receive a 1-year Owl Crate subscription and 50 books for her school library. Huron Heights is committed to building a community that is respectful, inclusive, and understands the importance of reciprocity. In partnership with Indigenous artist Kelsey Pallas, classes joined together to create a lasting impression on their school community and develop artwork for the school. The final pieces of the mosaic have been clicked together, and the artwork is ready to be unveiled. Thank you to all the wonderful students, staff, and community members who helped contribute to the legacy at Huron Heights. And now, we will play a video that takes a behind-the-scenes look at the project.
Ani, Audrey Rozek, Nindigenous Cause. I teach ACE here at Huron Heights. I have a medium support classroom. I sought out to create a project for my students where they would really get to integrate and be included in the school community. As an Anishinaabe educator myself, it was really important and really cool for me to bring that opportunity and talk about the culture and how meaningful it is to bring that representation into the school. A big part of that is respect and reciprocity, and I wanted to kind of create this opportunity where we could come together and learn from each other and learn about culture, but also culture within my classroom with my ACE students, because they don't always get that inclusivity in spaces. So I wanted to kind of create a safe, open space for everyone to come together and collaborate and make something beautiful together.
What we're creating today is a wooden mosaic piece. It's a very big puzzle that we kind of create collaboratively, and the puzzle is going to be here for a very long time, and it represents community, also like creative freedom, which I absolutely love. Everybody has the ability to just create the way they want to create, but also including everyone. And I love the fact that there's so many students here who have their hands on this project, because it really does speak to the inclusive community that we have here at Huron Heights.
This is a really unique opportunity to kind of have different areas of the school come together for like a common purpose, right? It's only so often that we get to, I guess, add like another layer of tradition to what we do at Huron. If you think about it, like this whole mosaic thing is going to be at the school for like the rest of however long Huron's standing. So I guess it's cool to see everybody come together and contribute to something that'll be everlasting.
I'd say there's definitely like a really good sense of community at Huron. Like all the students and staff are all super kind and really inclusive, and just having all of those great people around you really helps create a support system and allows everybody to succeed at the school. And I think this activity kind of helps reflect that, because everybody's working together for like a common purpose. It makes me feel like happy and like I'm part of something like bigger, and I feel like it's gonna have a nice reach on a bunch of different communities and leave like a lasting impact at the school.
It's nice when people come together and we make new friends, and friendships can last forever sometimes. We can learn from people's cultures and where they come from. We can learn from each other.
It's actually kind of cool learning like different arts and different cultures and backgrounds. Like I never really done a mosaic before, and I like how we get to work with someone from an Indigenous background to work on this piece of work.
Being able to meet new people is amazing. This piece isn't just only being made by one class or one person, it's being made by a bunch of different classes. I'm glad that what I build gets to stay here and it'll be here for a long time.
I've always thought it was super important for us to do what you call legacy projects, or projects in the community as well. It's not just about the kids making projects that they can take home. I think it's more important that they can make a project that they can see later in life or down the road and say, hey, I was part of that process.
As Huskies, we all pull together. These are our school words, which is really the whole mission piece of the work of art, is that we're looking for people to come together and to inspire people to continue to do so. And in Truth and Reconciliation, it's so important to have that mentality, and I want that to be reflective. So as Huskies, we all pull together in Truth and Reconciliation. If we don't all pull together, the sled will not move. So in order for us to move forward in Truth and Reconciliation, we all have a part to play. We are working towards respect and reciprocity across the school, coming together in different groups of people and learning from each other so that we can move forward into a better tomorrow and carry that forth for students after graduation into the world as young individuals going forth and paving the way.
And that wraps up the Good News Update for June 2025, and our final Good News Update for the 2024-2025 school year. We can't wait to see you all again in September 2025.
Thank you. It's always great to see the good things happening throughout the board in all our schools. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Trustee Watson?
Yes, I'd like to approve it, but I want to pull Folio 26, 1, 2, and 3 of the budget. I just have a couple questions that were given to me by parents to ask.
Folio 26, part 1, 2, and 3. So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception
Sorry, I think it's 27. No, it's 1, 2, and 3. It starts on 26, 2, 27, and it's 1, 2, and 3. It's just the budget.
Okay, so you're actually pulling the minutes for the special budget meeting as you have questions. Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of Folio 25, the minutes from the special budget meeting? Trustee Piakowski, seconded Trustee Cody. Any discussion? All in favor? And that is carried. Trustee Watson?
Thank you. I have two questions. And of the original report, it was on Folio 16 and 17, where the budget listed behavior support teams, the board certified behavior analysis, child and youth care worker, EAs, BMS, and staff with a special education teacher. And I'm just wondering, is this a brand new initiative on top of what we currently do? Or was that something in the budget that, you know, it already existed?
Superintendent Landry?
Through the chair, we have these teams in place already. Look to Superintendent Albrecht to confirm. I think we have 2 already, and what was outlined in the budget report was to expand the number of teams that we have.
So now we have 3, you know, with the budget.
Through the chair, this was outlined in the strategic spending section of the budget, which we would only trigger if we're able to finish the 24-25 school year in a balanced position. We would be using reserves to implement this, and we said we would come back to trustees in the fall.
Thank you. And my second question has to do with Chromebooks. And is that just the cost for the Chromebooks? Is it a budgeted? Is it something that the ministry has asked us to do? And you know, what is the cost for the math software?
Superintendent Landry, I think you're on for all of these.
Through the chair, Chromebooks, just so I could confirm the trustee's question, has the ministry directed us to buy Chromebooks?
Or is it sweatered, specifically, the money that we receive for Chromebooks?
Through the chair, it's not enveloped or sweatered. The money we get for Chromebooks comes through the Learning Resources Fund. It's a per pupil benchmark. If trustee will recall my presentation last week, I think I made a tongue-in-cheek comment about $35 being the benchmark, and we can't find Chromebooks for that amount of money. So it's not sweatered, but that is the dollar figure that we get.
Okay, thank you.
So, just let me get back to page 1. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the special budget meeting of June 11th. Trustee Woodcock, seconded Trustee Johnson. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? So we now have a report on a follow-up on consultation from Director Miller.
Thank you, and through the chair to trustees, I'll just wait as the presentation comes up on the screen. Trustees, as you're aware, in March 2025, there was a consultation motion that was passed. This motion asked us to take on a broader community consultation regarding the multi-year strategic plan, which would allow for a thorough review with the direction to reach out to all stakeholders in our community, and in addition, an opportunity for all staff throughout the schools and education center to be able to provide feedback, as well as our community partners in the process. Three takeaways for staff as we work through this process was that staff were to lead the consultation process with trustee involvement, and in a minute I'll share the committee that has come together, that we will begin this process in the spring of 2025, which we've had, and bringing back a report tonight, or an update tonight, and that we will provide a report in early 2026. Right now we're looking at March 2026, that we will consolidate all the feedback and bring that evidence back in a statistical format. The purpose of this motion and this consultation was to ensure a few things. One, that the strategic plan that's in place continues to resonate and reflect the conditions that support student learning, achievement, and well-being. That it would provide direction to inform system decisions and ensure alignment and coherence across our system. As we have talked about how we will do this work, we will be using language and opportunities that are accessible to all stakeholders to provide feedback and information, keeping students at the center of all of these consultations, providing multiple ways for stakeholders to engage and provide feedback, and honoring this feedback as a way to inform next steps. Ultimately, we believe that success will be just that we have numerous opportunities to gather feedback, reflections, and information that represent the diverse experiences and needs of all WRDSB students, staff, parents, families, and extended communities. And also through this process, we would be able to determine next steps to reflect what we heard from stakeholders, while ensuring that this focus remains on our most marginalized students in the WRDSB. The four phases that we have laid out in developing this process is sort of from spring to date, starting some planning, which I'll outline in a minute, implementation, which will start in July, consolidation of the various feedback that we do receive, and then a report back in March 2026. The phase one planning, there was 6 takeaways for us, and what I'll start with is just sharing about the committee. Next slide, please. And that committee has, the ad hoc steering committee has met twice, on June 10th and June 18th, and thank you to trustees and staff who have been part of that. The committee does include, the membership is Vice Chair Weston, trustees Johnson, Piatowski, Wasim, and Watson. And staff who are part of that committee are myself, Associate Director Games San Vicente, Executive Manager Lane, Senior Manager Hughes, and Manager of Corporate Services Riddell. Through this planning process, the group has worked hard to identify all stakeholder groups, which of course include students, staff, parents, caregivers, and families, our statutory board committees, which are our EIAG, our IAC, Parent Involvement Committee, Special Education Advisory Committee as well, our school councils, school communities, as well as community partners and community groups. We have worked through an opportunity to determine the scope of work, which will ensure that the multi-year strategic plan will, as I mentioned, continues to resonate and is supporting what it was set out to do. In doing so, too, we've been able to look at what that scope of work will be. And in doing so, we've looked at providing many opportunities for feedback and discussion to ensure the work continues as we had hoped. Also to ensure students are at the center of any stakeholder consultations, and also that it's important that multiple ways are provided for stakeholders to engage and provide consultation. The other pieces is just how we will go about this consultation process. One way that we will do that is a variety of town hall meetings, both that will be likely in person and virtual for accessibility and other opportunities to ensure it is wide-reaching. We will also look at facilitated focus groups that we will bring together, that staff will facilitate those conversations, and also surveys in a number of modes and a number of ways to give feedback that will be available to community, to staff, and to students. And we're just determining what those surveys will look like. In regards to town hall meetings, we will be looking certainly at the various municipalities and townships throughout the region, and currently we would be looking at elected officials, so our trustees and senior team members or as well being part of that and helping to facilitate those conversations to provide that opportunity. And then just to consolidate all of the work and all the feedback, as you can imagine, with a wide-ranging consultation, we're very hopeful that there will be a lot of information. The committee has made a decision to engage a third party to help support this consolidation process, and we'll be putting out a request for product in the near future to work on that. Just to note around implementation is that a timeline has been developed to work through this process from September to December 2025. We continue to review and confirm stakeholder groups. We have quite a list, it's quite extensive, and just to develop the themes that we will be able to, as we work through the questions that become available for the town hall meetings, the focus groups, and the surveys. And that brings us to the end of the update. Phase 3 then, as mentioned, will be the consolidation of all that information, and the final phase will be the report back in March of 2026. And again, thank you to those trustees and staff who have been part of this process to date.
Thank you, Director Miller. Trustees, are there any questions? Thank you. We look forward to that process unfolding. So we now move to reports on the Board Improvement and Equity Plan, and we will begin with the Math Achievement Action Plan. Associate Director Game San Vicente and Superintendent Chatha. Sorry. Trustee Wasim?
Thank you. Just a quick note to Senior Manager Rydell. If those slides for the update on the strategic planning process can be shared with the rest of the trustees, that's been requested. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Oh.
Through the chair, I'm pleased to introduce Superintendent Chatha to welcome our highly knowledgeable and effective math team. And they will be updating you this evening on the Math Achievement Plan. It's exciting when you have a plan and it's established and it's working, Among other pieces, this team has led impactful work around early numeracy and tiered intervention. Welcome, Superintendent Chatha.
Through the chair to the trustees, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. So we are pleased to provide you with an update of our board's implementation of the Ontario Math Achievement and Action Plan. This provincial initiative continues to guide our efforts to strengthen math instruction, improve student outcomes, and ensure alignment with the Ministry of Education's priorities. So it is worth mentioning again that the Ministry of Education has highlighted several aspects of our implementation plan as exemplary, including our math long-range plans. These plans are available to the public, and they serve as a foundational tool for consistent and high-quality instruction across our schools. As we move forward, we are committed to refining these plans based on our data that we collect, classroom practices that we observe, and the success we celebrate, while also addressing areas identified for improvement. This process of continuous reflection and adjustment is central to our commitment to excellence in mathematics achievement. It ensures that our strategies remain responsive to student needs and aligned with the evolving expectations of the ministry, and to provide a comprehensive overview of our progress and next steps, I'm pleased to introduce the team that will be presenting the final report. We will start with Siobhan Waters, System Administrator, just behind me. Rhonda Hewer, Elementary Consultant, wave Rhonda. And Carolyn Gingrich, Secondary Consultant. They will share insights into our implementation journey, highlight key achievements, and outline our plan for ongoing improvement. So thank you for your continued support and dedication to student success in mathematics achievement.
Thank you, Superintendent Chadha. Good evening, trustees, and thank you for the opportunity to return this evening to share our final update on the Math Achievement Action Plan for the 2024-25 school year. Tonight, I will provide highlights of our progress, areas we're watching closely, and our next steps as we move into year 3 of implementation. At the WRDSB, we believe that equity in math means more than offering the same lesson to every student. It means providing all learners access to grade level content supported through a tiered, responsive approach. We've anchored this work in collective responsibility, teachers, CERTs, facilitators, and administrators working together to support student success and ensure math is a gateway, not a gatekeeper, to post-secondary pathways. The ministry's plan centers on 3 key priorities: curriculum fidelity, math content knowledge for teaching, knowing the mathematics learner. At the WRDSB, our elementary long-range plans have been the primary tool for advancing these priorities. They've helped align instruction, professional learning, and intervention in a coherent way across our system. Although early mathematics was not a central focus in the first year of the plan, it became an important area of expansion this year, driven by what we know from research, that early math skills are a strong predictor of later school achievement. In February, we shared that we provided professional learning to 120 DECEs focused on number sense development and progression. Given the overwhelmingly positive response and demand, we've offered the session again this spring, and as a result, we've now supported the professional development of 280 DECEs across the system, more than doubling our original reach. This is a significant step in aligning early learning with the broader goals of the Math Achievement Action Plan. DECEs play a foundational role in supporting early numeracy development, and by equipping them with tools grounded in number sense progression, we're laying the groundwork for stronger math trajectories from the start. I would like to now hand it over to Carolyn.
Thanks. As part of the reporting for the Math Achievement Action Plan, we're required to survey student responses to the statement, "I am good at math," in November, January, and June. Earlier this year, we shared encouraging signs that student confidence in math was improving. In February, we reported an increase in the percentage of grade 3s and grade 6 students responding, "I agree," to this statement. Unfortunately, that trend did not hold with the most recent survey. By June, the grade 3 results had stagnated, and in grade 6, we saw a decline. This is concerning, though it does mirror patterns that we see across the province. We do take this seriously. Confidence is foundational to learning, especially in mathematics. However, we are not completely clear on the degree to which this measure correlates with achievement results. In response, we're actively reviewing our current achievement data and analyzing it through a motivation and engagement lens. This includes looking closely at the work of researchers such as Amy Berry, whose findings may help us better understand how confidence fluctuates over time and how we can respond. In addition, we will be revising our elementary long-range plans this summer to integrate what we've learned from earlier improvements and what emerging research is telling us to incorporate social-emotional learning around math throughout the school year. Our aim is to build not only skill, but sustained confidence in our learners as the year progresses. Although our group data shows there's work to do, we also know that the efforts to build student confidence and skill are making a real difference, especially at the individual level. Recently, a parent shared the following message with their school principal. With their permission and with identifying details removed for confidentiality, we wanted to share their words. I just wanted to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude for the incredible math learning opportunity provided by the teacher. My daughter comes home beaming with pride about the work she's doing, and it's clear how much she's growing, not just in her skills, but in her confidence too. She speaks so enthusiastically about the things she's learning and the fun she's having. It's truly heartwarming to hear how supported and capable she feels under her teacher's guidance. The impact is already so evident, and I just wanted you to know how much it means to us. This message is a powerful reminder that behind every data point is a student, and that our collective efforts are having a meaningful impact on real children and families. It speaks to the importance of celebrating growth, especially when it's rooted in strong relationships, high expectations, and a belief in every child's potential. This year, we offered a 7-part admin learning series to deepen school leaders' understanding of mathematics instruction and help embed the priorities of the Math Achievement Action Plan at the school level. The sessions ran monthly from October to May, with an average attendance of 50 administrators per session, a strong indicator of engagement and sustained interest. Our focus throughout the series was on translating strategy into practice. We began by unpacking the high-impact instructional practices, most aligned with effective math teaching. From there, we shifted into equitable assessment practices, exploring how to collect and interpret evidence of learning in ways that are both responsive and inclusive. This aligned closely with our focus on curriculum fidelity and knowing the math learner. This series not only built individual leadership capacity, but also helped create a shared language and collective direction around math improvement across our system. I will now hand it over to Rhonda.
Since our last update in February, we've seen continued growth in both reflex usage and student achievement. We now have over 26,000 students using reflex, an increase of 2,000 since the winter, and they've collectively mastered more than 2.5 million math facts. The student average has grown from knowing 75 facts in February to 95 today. What's especially encouraging is the shift in fluency. At the start of the year, nearly 7,500 students had no facts mastered and no student being fluent. Today, almost 9,000 students have achieved fluency in 70% or more of their facts, a significant marker of foundational skill development. Fluency is critical and grounded in the science of learning. We know it must be built on conceptual understanding and supported through intentional, personalized practice. Reflex enables this by adapting to each learner, reinforcing knowing facts, and introducing new ones in a purposeful, sequenced way. This year marked our first full board-wide implementation of Reflex, and we're pleased to continue into next year with the renewal of ministry funding for digital math tools. Looking ahead, we'll be refining our implementation guidance to help even more students benefit from consistent and effective use of Reflex, especially by supporting routines that lead to meaningful gains over time. It's clear that Reflex has become a valuable tool in our system-wide effort to strengthen math fluency in a way that is engaging, effective, and responsive to student needs. In ministry-identified schools, math facilitators provided both Tier 2 in-class support and Tier 3 withdrawal interventions, working directly with students to strengthen key mathematical concepts. Over 2,000 students in grades 1 to 8 received support from a math facilitator. The greatest growth has been observed through Tier 3 support, where students engaged in small group instruction focused on foundational ideas they were still consolidating. Facilitators used diagnostic tools and sequenced tasks to guide learning and help students move toward developing proficiency with grade level expectations. The impact of our math facilitators also extends to educators across the system. This year alone, 1,292 educators engaged with a math facilitator, whether through professional learning sessions, classroom-based support, resource development, or targeted instructional guidance. These interactions have helped build confidence, deepen math content knowledge, and support the effective use of high-impact instructional practices. Educators consistently tell us that working with a math facilitator has been meaningful. not only for the strategies they gain, but for the sense of partnership and shared responsibility they experience. The work is helping to grow capacity, shift practice, and foster a stronger culture of math learning across our schools.
One area we've been particularly focused on this year is improving how we use data to support student achievement. At the start of this process, this was our lowest rated KPI, or key performance indicator, so we are proud to see meaningful growth. We asked participating administrators whether they had a process in place that uses both qualitative and quantitative data to monitor student progress for students achieving below level 2. Agreement rose from 68% in cycle 1 to 77% in cycle 2. Similarly, when asked about their ability to lead staff in implementing those processes, we saw an improvement from 74 to 78%. This shift reflects not only increased clarity around expectations, but also the direct impact of professional learning, facilitator support, and the resources built into the long-range planning tools. It's encouraging progress in an area we identified as needing the most attention and one we will continue to prioritize moving forward. As we look ahead to the 25-26 school year, we're building on a strong foundation while continuing to respond to the emerging needs. We'll maintain a focused commitment to our elementary long-range plans. These plans have been a central part of our success, and we're proud to share that the Ministry of Education has recognized their quality, so much so that they've referred several other school boards to us for guidance and support, and that's something to celebrate. Our next step is to strengthen implementation with new teachers, and we're actively exploring ways to provide mentorship opportunities between our math facilitators and early career educators. Supporting new teachers with targeted just-in-time math guidance will be critical in sustaining the gains we've made. We've also continued to place math facilitators in ministry-identified schools where their support remains essential. Now that Tier 2 and Tier 3 resources are built in the long-range plans, our next area of focus is Tier 1 instruction. We began looking at how we can enhance classroom practice by supporting universal instruction more directly. Recently, we visited the Upper Grand District School Board to learn how they support just-in-time professional learning. Inspired by their work, we're looking to pilot embedded micro-learning videos for educators, short, accessible clips on key topics like how to use tech tools such as fraction tiles and Rec and Recs effectively with their instruction. Finally, to strengthen the homeschool connection, we will work with Explore Learning to host a Reflex parent session in early fall rather than waiting until spring. This shift will give families an earlier opportunity to understand how Reflex supports their child's fluency and how they can help at home. Together, these next steps position us to continue advancing equity, fluency, and confidence in mathematics across the WRDSB. Thank you for your time and your continued support of the Math Achievement Action Plan. We look forward to sharing future updates, and at this time, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you for this very detailed report and presentation. It's really exciting to see that this is work that other boards are also turning to us for to, receive some guidance on improving, math literacy. So that's really exciting. I have two questions, but they're distinct. So I'll just ask my first one now, and then I'll come back for my second one. The first one is regarding the discrepancy that we're seeing between students' confidence on the I am good at math statement kind of waning throughout the school year compared to the improvement in facts memorization on the virtual learning platform we have. I'm wondering if you guys have looked into why that might be the opposite, and I'm also curious, is it possible that there's tools online that students can use at home that may be assisting with the virtual platform? Like, I'm thinking 6th graders could potentially have the literacy to use like ChatGPT at home for some of those activities.
The return of the pink sticky for everyone. Through the chair to the trustee. We recognize that obviously what we had hoped would be gains, slid, I'm going to say, back in our I am good at math. We have lots of ideas about why that may be. We are testing some of those. We will see EQAO data where we'll be able to match students from, not specific students because the survey was anonymous, but those classes to see if the response is consistent on the EQAO assessment. We were hypothesizing many reasons why that could be. Some of it may be because of the work was really influenced heavily in the very beginning by the math facilitator, and that we may have taken our foot off the gas pedal, so to say, as we went into our second block of support. And so we've tasked the group of summer writers with looking at ways that we can re-embed what we do at the very beginning throughout the course to ensure that we don't hopefully see the fall, but also we're interested to see if we see that consistent percentage report when we get our EQAO results that ask that same question. And then we'll kind of need to go from there. And I say that because this was the first year we'd seen some improvement, so we were pleased with that, and we were surprised, and we only got these results about a week ago. So we've been surprised to see that. We also recognize, you know, the timing. There's lots of things that could be impacting results, so we want to be able to look at that a little deeper, and with the support of our research team and math facilitators who've been asked to ask some questions at their school, we're hoping we'll find some more. As for the ChatGPT side of it, so Reflex is a math fluency and automaticity. So with automaticity comes time. So part of what's happening there is, in a very non-high stakes way that the students aren't aware of, we're actually assessing how quickly they're responding. So in order to gain fluency, you have to be able to do it in a certain amount of time. What's great, this particular software initially assesses how fast you type numbers, so that you're not being measured against a standard, you're being measured against the way that you can input items, and then you begin to respond. And with math fact fluency, we're talking about things like what two numbers add to 10. So there's an expectation they would be responding fairly quickly. You would typically think of them maybe as well as times tables and other sort of pieces, but there's more than just the times tables when we talk about fact fluency. There's addition and subtraction. So the idea that someone would be using alternative software would not create greater fluency for them, because it would create a delay that wouldn't register then as being fluent.
Trustee Watson? Sorry. Yes, I have you down to that. Trustee Watson?
I thought there was someone else before me.
Who was that? Okay.
All right. My question has to do with the second page. So when you look at level 1 and level 2, so level 1 is below ministry level, and then the second they're approaching ministry standard. And so when you look at grade 3 and grade 6, we're looking at 35% roughly for both. Mm-hmm. And we can see that our numbers for level 2 have gone down for grade 3 and level 3. And what do you attribute that to? Like, what are some of the factors? And I wonder if, you know, we know that research supports students having less moves within the school system or coming in so that they're at the same school and they're, you know, there's consistency and they do better academically. So I'm wondering, what are some of the main factors that would contribute to the decline that we're seeing in these numbers from last year?
Sure. So yeah, in one grade panel we saw, I would say, improvements. In the other grade panel we did see a decline. We were working with our administrators earlier this year to get them to break down what might be some of the attributable pieces. So what were commonalities amongst those students? And we were asking them to collate that data, but we were waiting until they got to, and they've only just gotten final report cards to kind of look at that data again. We did see a pattern, most significantly of the items that they were looking at, so with attendance. And so we know attendance matters for student achievement, and that was a pattern that many schools could see. There was some other pieces we were looking for patterns around gender, because that is part of the disproportionality index that EQAO reports on. And that was not as clear in report card marks. So we thought that was an interesting piece. And we've actually spoke with research about looking at comparing how report card marks and EQAO are correlated. So we're hoping to have that once our EQAO marks come in. And then with talking with schools, we've seen where students are able to get the Tier 3 intervention, the percent increase was sort of in the 80%, high 80s. I don't have the number off the top of my head at this moment. So we're hoping, because we recognize those schools we're reporting on are schools that were in, identified initially as being in the bottom 20% of EQAO for the province. So we were in a position where the province had used their tool to identify those schools for us. So when we see the significant increases in the 80 to 90% range when students have Tier 3, that tells us for our next year that we want to increase our opportunities or access to Tier 3 supports, because we saw a greater return there than we did in our Tier 2 supports.
Thank you, and through you to staff. So I just wondered as well, what are we doing to combat the fact that, you know, it has to do with attendance? What do we provide for students who actually miss a lot of time? What kind of supports are in place?
Through the chair to the trustee. So I think what we've done specifically, and I can only speak to what we've done to support MAP schools because I'm not, like, I don't have a sense for the larger piece. That's not part of what I can respond to. But we did do some problem solving, specifically guiding those teams that had come together to look at were they ways they could change intervention groups so that when students were able to return, they were part of an intervention group that would not have gone on without them. So by regrouping in at least a few of the schools, they were trying this strategy. By regrouping those students, when they did return, it was going to be, oh, it isn't you've missed this many days of your support. Instead, it was, we're so glad you're here today, and we're gonna pick up where you were because we made those groups smaller. So for the teachers providing those Tier 3 interventions, they didn't have it's not that they're large groups in Tier 3, it's quite small, but they might have made the group only 2 or 3 students so that the students would feel that greater sense of engagement and greater sense of connection when they did return.
Trustee Estoesta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Much like Trustee Wasim, I have 2 distinct questions, so if you can put me back on the list, that would be great. My first question, so noticing that we had the 15 grade 3 classrooms, the 19 grade 6 classes, and they're across 26 schools. One of the things that I'm interested in is this data reflecting the same schools over the last 3 years, or are we able to segregate that data or that reporting based on those that have been tracked for multiple years versus new additional ones or those that have been identified?
Through the chair to the trustee. So when we report on student achievement, we are only reporting on students who've been in the same school both last year and this year. So that is one of the things they ask us about when we report on the map. They want us reporting on the same students. So that it's possible there are some students in those classes right now whose attendance we are not reflecting or whose levels of achievement we are not reflecting because they were not at that school last year. So this data reflects that piece. In terms of on an individual school basis, we can break that data apart, and we would look at that when we talk with principals, where we can share that specific information for them. I did have the pleasure of meeting with some of the principals and being able to review that data and look for patterns, because we would say there is not one, there's not one consistent piece. Each of the schools brings a different reasoning, different concerns as it may be, but the different ideas about what's impacting and even different results. So what you're seeing there is the amalgamation of those classrooms as one data point. And then as on an individual basis, we would absolutely support principals in having those conversations and giving them access to that information.
Perfect, thank you.
Trustee Woodcock.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to staff. It's not a great report. Great. I really like that. It's good data for us to dig into. My question is about financing, and I don't know who would answer this, but can you please, someone please remind me if the funding for these maps is in core education funding, or is it special funding that's going to end? And if it is going to end, when will it end? And I have a follow-up.
Superintendent Landry.
Through the chair, it is provided through a programs and partnerships funding. There's been no indication that the math funding is going to end, but they only announce it on a one-year basis. I think we're in the 6th or 7th year of one-year announcements.
Follow-up, Trustee Woodcock?
Actually, no, I'm gonna forget that.
Trustee Piakowski?
Yes, thank you. Through you, comments, not questions. So first of all, each year, the Learning Services consultants invite trustees to go into classrooms where this work is being done, and I've taken advantage of that over the last 2 years. And when that comes up next year, I would really encourage my colleagues who haven't had that opportunity, and even those who have, to take advantage of that, because I think the decisions that we make here impact the classroom, and if we know what's going on in the classroom, we can better process the information that we get in these reports. And the second comment is that Rhonda Hewer, I found out at the meeting or the event at Grow, is returning to the classroom at Willow River, so congratulations to her on that.
Trustee Johnson?
Thank you, through the chair. Just a couple of observations and a note of gratitude. The response to the survey question, I'm good at math, and how it went down in June. The first thing I thought was, you ask an educator in June if you're good at teaching, and they're going to say, I don't feel so good right now. The other thing is that it's an interesting question because it's highly subjective, because those students actually might be really good at it, and yet sometimes the more you learn, the more you think you're not good at it. So it's interesting data. Take it for what it's worth. It's a lot of digging would need to be done before we jump to conclusions about what it means. But I know there would be several students who would say they're not good at something when they actually are good at it because their own personal standard is so high. So it's an interesting thing. And I want to just say thank you to you as a team, and thank you to all the staff throughout our schools who have been implementing this all year, the dedication to creativity, the late nights, up late at night trying to help kids fill in the gaps. Much appreciation.
Thank you, Trustee Wasim.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm just wondering, what's the role in goal setting in complement to the activities and the confidence building exercises they do? For instance, are students being encouraged to set goals for themselves on their math progress? Are they learning about potential careers they can pursue with the skills they would learn? Like, what is the real world application that's being shared with them?
So through the chair to the trustee, our initial work this year, especially with our grade 3s, we wouldn't necessarily have gone into the career field. Instead, we were doing a lot of work to define what it can be to be good at math, because a lot of us, and I think I speak for some people in this room, define good at math as getting the right answer as faster than anyone else. And so recognizing that that's actually, and that's, that has to go with the idea that some people are able and some are not, and we really need to be looking at or digging into that understanding that some people are gifted at math. There's a fabulous woman in the States who says that everyone's a mather. Everyone's a writer, everyone's a reader, everyone's a mather. So we've been focused on making sure that we look at what does it mean to engage in mathematics, and that can make us good at math. So being actively engaged, not necessarily passively engaged, making us good at math. And so at the youngest grades, that might look like I asked for help, I made a mistake, but I kept going. Maybe I got a question right. We absolutely acknowledge that would definitely be, or I tried someone else's strategy. So trying to shift away from that sort of basic innate, the idea that there's innate ability in mathematics, to a greater understanding of what makes you a good student will make you good at math. And that's where the shift had been.
And just to follow up on that, I really appreciate what you shared, especially on pieces like I made a mistake and I kept going. I think that resilience, the literature on math learning really shows that that's critical. Something I'm curious about is even at, for instance, the grade 3 level, are students, for instance, shown that, you know, if you work towards improving your math skills, like you could be at a grocery store and you can tally up like this candy and this candy that you want to buy and how much that total would look like? Like, is there a real world connection that's shown to them even at the younger age levels?
Yeah, so the reason I look back to Rhonda, because she has the expertise in our long-range plans, because she's been supervising their creation for many, many years. And so that might be in the tier 1 problems that they would be getting. So we wouldn't necessarily have framed it as, if you're good at math, you can do this, but we would definitely be presenting them with problems that, you know, you have this much money and these are the candies at the store. What candies would you want to buy? I don't know that we've necessarily made that connection, and that's an interesting thought. We know that we also have to recognize that the research would also say that students have to believe that the teacher believes they're good at math. And so there is levels and layers to the I am good at math and where we are even in the year and whether that has an impact. We survey just 3 times a year. And so what that looks like and how we can define it. It was a very proud moment to see our grade 3s writing their sticky notes to put on the wall chart about I am good at math, the ways they were good at math that day. And so we need to find a way to take that energy, and I think we shared what was happening at one of our elementary schools in Cambridge with their display case where they had taken photos of things they were good at and it was in the display case like it was a trophy. We need to think about how are we moving those pieces through the entire year and not just sort of a moment at the beginning.
Thank you, Trustee Estresta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to highlight the amazing growth in the sentiment that was shared by educators. That is fantastic progress. Not to be Debbie Downer, but eventually we're going to get to the point where there's less significant jumps and we're going to get to stagnation eventually. Which is also a good thing. It means that we have quite a few of them feeling very confident within the frameworks that are being available to them. Will there be an ability, though, for us to continue to separate some of the answers based on, like, I think there was a separation out from those who had taken MAP training. So are we going to be able to do that, some of that separation, just so we can see, once we get to stagnation, if there's still those jumps from those who are taking the training for the first time versus those who have already consistently taken it or who have not taken it yet?
Through the chair to the trustee. I think the first thing I want to address is the idea of stagnation. So one of the things that happens is we set KPIs every fall, so key performance indicators, and the ministry encourages us very strongly to not set KPIs that we know we're good at. And they will have meetings with us and challenge us in our thinking about we measured. And from year to year, there's sort of a progression from when we first start down the route of a KPI, we might be measuring confidence, then we might measure knowledge, then we might measure implementation, and sort of the highest order of that is to then measure student impact. And you'll see that in some of the KPIs in your report, we have moved to measuring student impact. And some were still, if it was a new one this year, we're still at the confidence level. And we are trying to hold ourselves to that sort of idea or understanding around those tiers, and why, not that we were happy to see that we had something that we chose that we weren't, excelling at, but that we were happy to have something that we could really dig in on. Because you're right, when we're talking about 24 people, one person saying no can really shift, right, what percentage shows. So looking for areas where we can see growth, and looking for those areas we know will be impactful because the ministry sets those priorities and gives us those upper tiers where we're working our KPIs from, but that we are pushing to not just look at those same pieces again and again.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing big jumps for the next set of KPIs that we put in.
Trustee Watson.
Thank you. Page 8 of this report, under the percent of educators who agree to the survey questions below, where it says, I feel confident implementing Tier 2, or Tier 3 if CERT instruction using the WRDSB elementary long-range plan. And yet we have 26% that strongly agree and 47% that somewhat agree. And I remember this from last year, and there was a lack of confidence in this answer. So I'm wondering, is this very similar to last year? I know there were issues, and how do we, through you to staff, how do we get to the point where we can say that a great percentage strongly agree to this question?
Sure, through the chair to the trustee. That's a good question. And what I'll say there is, we know first, so when we use a Likert scale, the idea of yes, there's yes and no, which is a really easy, we force people to decide. And then we can use a scale, which, strongly disagree, neutral, agree. And depending on the variety on the scale, you're actually giving people a lot of opportunity to dwell on what they're thinking and how they define strongly agree. And one of the things we don't in the survey do is say, this is what strongly agree means, and this is what agree means. So that's why the researcher made the suggestion that they be grouped. Because on any given day, depending on whether the math facilitator was there 2 days before or hadn't been there for a couple weeks, their level of confidence may differ. What I will say is that teachers that were completing that survey this year, for the most part, are not the same teachers as the year before. So we talk about working in grade 3 and 6 classrooms, but when we return to schools for an additional year, we work with principals to, although we support the students in the grade 3 and 6 classrooms, we actually look to support a new teacher when we return to a school, so we can, I'm gonna say, spread the wealth of having a math facilitator in your room, but still have the math facilitator in the building. So if you had them last year and you tried a few items and you're not sure this year you're gonna try something new, you have access to that person who was sort of your co-planner, co-teacher for the 14 weeks the year before. They're still in the building, and as much as possible, we do try to keep the same person as we can. So trying to see more teachers means that we may not see some of those things move as quickly because we're actually surveying new teachers. But in combination with considering both the agree and strongly agree as saying that it's helpful, and that the idea that it is new teachers that are likely completing that survey, we appreciate that for the most part, and remember we're talking about small numbers, so just 1 or 2 people can have an impact, right, on how many points we would drop as a percentage. So we're happy with those numbers. We would love 100%, but we're pleased with where those are and want to continue to push ourselves to look for things where there is more space, knowing that if we return to the same schools, we will have the opportunity to continue building confidence and continue to support those teachers.
Thank you very much. That was a very comprehensive report. I am also pleased to see the fact that DECEs are getting PD on number sense, and so we're not just spreading the wealth, we're deepening the knowledge, which is also very crucial. So thank you for all you do and for those amazing results. And Rhonda, all the best in your new position.
Thank you.
So we will have another board improvement and equity plan update on the streaming. Associate Director Game San Vicente, Superintendent Hill, and Dr. Lane.
Good evening, and through the chair, I'm thrilled. No, maybe I'm elated. No, I think I'm deeply grateful for this board report because I think it really demonstrates what's possible. I was also excited about math. Oh, they're not here, it's okay. I mean, I am excited about math. I think while public education, ever since I've been blessed to be a part of it, aims to create spaces that are better for all children, I think it's actually really rare when we see actions in motion, let alone tangible results of how we've actually done that. And it's a real credit to this board, who is now completing their 4th of a 5-year plan around de-streaming. So as you hear a little bit about the why and the process, I'm encouraging you to look out for 2 exciting numbers, the number 400 and the number 360. And with that, I welcome Superintendent Hill and Dr. David Lane, Executive Manager of Research.
Thank you. We'll just wait for the presentation to get up there. And so tonight I am almost as delighted as Associate Director Games San Vicente to talk to you about de-streaming. And next slide. So first, let's contextualize. So our de-streaming strategy operates really closely to 2 of the strategic directions of the board. The first would be equitable opportunities and outcomes, which is described as creating opportunities for everyone to succeed, and also increasing student learning through engagement, ensuring that our students have learning opportunities that lead them to a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. So that's within the areas of the strategic directions that this initiative lies. Next slide, please. And this is also closely connected to our board improvement and equity plan, and it was part of our sovereignty, human rights, and equity work to ensure that, or to measure as an indicator, the percentage of students who are achieving the provincial standard in de-streamed courses, and this has been on our board improvement and equity plan for a number of years. And we have employed a number of strategies and a number of actions, including training for administrators, training for teachers, training for support staff, and employed a number of central staff to support this initiative. And so there's been a variety of learning opportunities across a number of years, and so we do want to highlight that we are measuring that as an indicator. Next slide, please. And then finally, this initiative really supports our conditions for learning. So our conditions for learning are about pedagogy and assessment, relationships and learning environments, and our work to have success in de-stream classrooms in secondary schools has really been about rethinking pedagogy and assessment, rethinking our relationships with our students, with each other as professional staff, and rethinking our learning environments so that they better support the needs of all students. And next slide, please. So I think the first thing to do here is to contextualize, and I bet you didn't think you were in for a history lesson tonight, but boy, am I here to give it to you. So the practice of streaming and our journey to de-streaming, if we want to take a look back all the way to the beginning of streaming, what we want to think about first is the big initiative that got streaming started in the province, and that really started in the early 1960s. You can't see it there, but that was with the Robarts Plan, and that idea was that we had to rethink the systems of schooling and public education that we had, and it was this plan that created 3 streams. The 3 streams were arts and science, business and commerce, and science, technology, and trades. These were our first attempt to really increase high school graduation rates in the province of Ontario, but also to orient our education system to our employment system in the province. And so under the Robarts plan, only students in that first stream, arts and science, were eligible and bound for university. The other 2 streams consisted of more commercial, technical, and vocational programming, and included more rural students and, statistically speaking, more students from rural communities. So this plan was implemented and initially met with a lot of pushback. So by 1969, we have an amendment to that system, and that is where we get credits. And we would all be familiar now with supporting students in their graduation, knowing that they need 30 credits to graduate from high school and earn a diploma. And so that comes at the end of the 1960s. And this changes those streams from arts and science, business and commerce, and science, technology, and trades to the more common and probably what lots of us went to school in, advanced, general, and basic. And so really, there wasn't really a reconceptualization of education and streaming, there was just a renaming of the streams. And so that system continued largely unchallenged until about 1987. In 1987, we had the Radwanski Report, and in this report, this is a real reconceptualization of education in the province of Ontario. And in this report, there were recommendations around standardized testing, which we all know now as EQAO, and also de-streaming and outcomes-based curricula. And so you hear a lot of teaching staff talk about overall expectations and specific expectations. That is based on an outcomes-based curricula, and so it was that middle piece of de-streaming that we really had to wrap our heads around in education. So even though these recommendations come out in 1987, very few of them are put into practice at that time in a very real way. So these recommendations on reconceptualizing schooling in Ontario are sort of living in the background of this continued credit advanced general basic system. When we get to 1999, this is a real change to the education system. This is also the year in which we started reconceptualizing high school from being a 5-year graduation to a 4-year graduation, the elimination of OAC. And it was in this iteration of public education that we moved in grade 9 and 10 to applied and academic as opposed to advanced general and basic. And so this is the system largely that has been in place since that time, and it is 25 years later. But one of the interesting initiatives that happened in 2021 was that the government decided it was time to implement the recommendation from the Radwanski report around de-streaming. Now, it had been tried in passing for 1 year and not met with lots of success, so there had to be an upswell of public opinion to support de-streaming again in the province of Ontario, and so this is what we have at this point. Beginning in September of 2021, the province brought in a transition to de-streamed from academic and applied in grade 9, and they began with the math class. Next slide, please. And so if we're gonna look at what de-streaming is, first we need to understand what is streaming. And so streaming is the process of placing students into different groups. We often call this cohorting students based on what we perceive as their academic ability or based on what their prior achievement has been. So until 2021, when we began the process of de-streaming, Ontario was the only province in our country that asked students to choose a post-secondary destination pathway as they entered high school and before they entered high school, because those course choices have to be in halfway through grade 8. So in Ontario, students were placed in applied academic or essentials pathways in grade 9 and 10. But what ended up happening is when we made the shift to the senior grades in 11 and 12, only students who were taking an academic pathway could proceed to university level courses. And so again, we had changed the labeling, but not substantively changed anything we had done. Next slide, please. The outcomes of such a system, it's really hard to see there, I apologize, is that the 5-year graduation rate for students who were enrolled in grade 9 applied math and language was about, I can't even see this, was about 26% who did not graduate on time and 74% who did. And if we looked at those who were in academic, it was only 5% who did not graduate within 5 years. So there is a stark difference in the graduation rates of students based on the pathway destinations they were making in the 8th grade and whether or not they were enrolled in applied or academic. In terms of where students went after high school, the number of students who were going to university from an applied pathway was about 3%. So we were asking students to make life-altering decisions in the 8th grade. Okay. In academic, the percentage of students who went on to university was about 54%, those who went on to college an additional 19%, and those choosing other pathways about 27%. Next slide, please. So really, when we talk about streaming and de-streaming, we have to differentiate between two sort of terms. In grade 9, our program is de-streamed now. And so de-streamed means that students are no longer divided into academic and applied. There is revised curriculum from the province across all of the core areas, and that curriculum is framed around inclusive teaching and learning practices. And these teaching and learning practices that have been implemented are designed to address the harms that streaming has created and sort of work on a premise that there's more than one way to demonstrate what you know. This is what we do for students in the 9th grade. So these courses all have a 5th character of W, and so you can think to yourselves that that means the whole group is together. What we do for our grade 10 students is we are engaged in single streaming, which is a different concept, because in grade 10, students are still technically eligible to choose between an applied and an academic pathway. What we've done in the WRDSB is we have asked all students to join the academic pathway, because we know that all students preserve pathway choices until they get to grade 11 by taking academic courses in grade 9 and 10. So teachers take what they've learned through the de-streamed curriculum and all of the professional learning that has come alongside with that, and they use those same inclusive teaching and learning practices to continue to engage all students in being successful in a singularly academic pathway. So again, this is what we do for students in grade 10, and these courses have a fifth character of D, academic. Next slide, please. So when we think about why we have made the transition from streamed classrooms to de-streamed, and I will add single stream classrooms, is that we know from our own government that a disproportionate number of students who come from low-income families, those who are racialized, those who are Indigenous, and those who have special education needs tend to be overrepresented in applied courses and underrepresented among students who graduate and go on to pursue post-secondary. We also know that streaming is considered racist in its outcomes because it harms particular racial groups while working for the benefit of other groups. Next slide, please. So we know that research from racialized communities, those who come from low-income households and those who are in other marginalized groups are often, by no fault, conscious fault of anyone, to take applied level courses. And so really what we've been doing is sort of replicating the society that we have by making these streaming choices. So these decisions, and again, I've said they're made before high school. They often impact everything from graduation, which we've seen, to employment opportunities later in life, and economic stability for individuals and families later on throughout their life cycle. Next slide, please. We also know that there has been a lot of research on bias in Ontario that has shown that what we believe about students maps in a patterned way onto students' demographic identities. Black students, for instance, are more often given lower learning skills ratings when they have the same grades as white students. This has a significant impact on their educational trajectories and teacher stream recommendations for high school. If we don't believe that students are going to show initiative or engage in responsibility the same, they don't get access to those kinds of opportunities. So what ends up happening is that students who are Black, students who are low income, and students who have special education needs are twice as likely to be streamed into applied courses as students who are not. Next slide, please. So we have to disrupt this. So de-streaming, de-streaming has really been an attempt to ensure that a student's social location is not a predictor of their outcome and success in school. The de-streaming initiative aims to eliminate the disproportionality in outcomes that currently exists for students. It also aims to continue to safeguard the opportunity that students have to making a choice about what they want to do after high school. Do they want to go to college? Do they want to pursue an apprenticeship? Do they want to go to university? And what it does is it provides students with opportunities to really engage in unlocking their own potential, and it helps us help them develop into highly skilled, knowledgeable, and caring citizens who contribute to their society, which is the goal of the education system as outlined in the Education Act. Next slide, please. So when we began de-streaming in the WRDSB, our system administrators, our consultants, our de-streaming itinerants, and other staff who were engaged in the process thought about what is it that we need to believe in order for de-streaming in the WRDSB to be a success. And so what the folks who did the initial work came up with is we needed to believe that each and every student is competent, is capable, and is curious. And that every student in our system, regardless of identity, should have access to high-level, equitable, and inclusive instructional practices. We also had to believe that every student has the right to pursue whatever post-secondary pathway they aspire to, that it should be their choice and not choices that are made for them or opportunities taken away from them that helps them or that impacts their post-secondary pathway. We also believe that students drive the learning conditions, and that's part of those inclusive teaching practices. We're engaging in responsive teaching practices, and those conditions include their diverse learning needs and their lived experiences. And then we also had to believe that it was the educator in the classroom with those students who was foundational in creating an inclusive and anti-oppressive environment in which all of those other beliefs could live and thrive. Next slide, please. So this is a look a little bit backwards and also into next year about what our 5-year plan for de-streaming has been. So as mentioned before, de-streaming began in 2021-22 with the implementation of the math course. This was the first de-streamed class where the curriculum was changed, and then the government wrote additional curriculum in subsequent years. In 22-23, science was de-streamed. All grade 9s began to take single-streamed math, or all grade 9s were taking de-streamed science, and all grade 10s were taking academic math, single-streamed. And we had no exams in this year. In 23-24, we moved into implementing single-streamed across more of our grade 10 courses and asked schools to choose to single-stream either history or English. And what happened was a lot of our schools decided to single-stream the entire program right at that time. Year 4 is where we are right now. This is our first full year of implementation of de-streamed across the grade 9 curriculum and single-streamed across the grade 10 curriculum. Next year will be our second full year of implementation of grade 9 and 10, so we thought now is a good time to give ourselves a status update, and at that point I will introduce David Lane to come and talk about our data.
Thank you, Superintendent Hill. Next slide, please. Briefly want to do a quick thank you to the IT department and the research team for bringing this data together and collating it, and it's my pleasure to share the data that we have. What you'll see on the first slide here, it represents information that you would have previously seen through our Board Improvement and Equity Plan reporting in the fall. So last year's data shows that the de-stream courses, as they've increased accessibility to the post-secondary prerequisite courses in grade 9, the majority of the students they do continue to exceed the provincial standard in these core areas. As I mentioned, we've seen this data before, but this year, next slide please, in preparation for this report, we took a deeper look at the impact of de-streaming and single streaming on credit accumulation in courses that are prerequisites for post-secondary pathways for secondary students. You'll notice that we have not included 2019-20 and 2020-21 because of the COVID-19 disruptions. This first slide here shows you, or this second slide, sorry, of data in grade 10 throughout the transition to single stream courses in math and English. The course pass rates, that's a 50% plus in these courses, have remained quite stable. In math, pass rates have hovered around the low to mid 90% range, while English courses have remained in the high 90% pass rate range. Next slide, please. So as we looked at enrollment and credit accumulation in grade 9 or grade 11 post-secondary prerequisite math courses, we can see a notable change in the percentage of students participating in and receiving credits in these courses. So this graph shows that 68% of students were enrolled in a grade 11 post-secondary prerequisite course in 2018-19, so before de-streaming and single streaming, compared to 77% in 2023-2024, after de-streaming and single streaming. Given the high pass rate in these courses, this translates to 63% receiving a credit in a post-secondary STEM pathway in 2018-19, compared to 73% in 2023-24. So in grade cohorts of approximately 4,000 students, you can see on the screen there, we have some variation. There was just below 4,000 in 2018-19 and over 4,000 in 23-24. A 10% increase in the percentage of students receiving post-secondary prerequisite math credits in grade 11 equates to an increase of approximately 400 students a year who maintain their access to a post-secondary STEM pathway following the introduction of de-streaming and single streaming. Next slide, please. We did a similar analysis for English, and we looked at the enrollment and credit accumulation for post-secondary prerequisite English courses. It's a mouthful. So this graph shows that 69% of students were enrolled in a grade 11 post-secondary prerequisite in English course in 2018-19, so before de-streaming and single streaming, compared to 77% in 23-24 after de-streaming and single streaming. Given the high pass rate in these courses, that translates to 67% of students receiving a credit in post-secondary prerequisite English course in 2018-19, compared to 76% in 23-24. In a grade cohort of approximately 4,000 students, as I mentioned before, this 9% increase in students, and the percentage of students receiving a post-secondary prerequisite English credit in grade 11 equates to an increase of approximately 360 students a year who maintain their access to a post-secondary pathway following the introduction of de-streaming and single streaming. And I believe next we have a video. I don't know who wants to introduce this, but I know it was, I guess I can introduce it. It was a collaboration of system administrators, superintendents, the communications department.
The Waterloo Region District School Board hopes to challenge the disparities that we see in education. De-streaming is the educational system that we want to see for all our students. It's one where students all have access to rigorous curriculum. And it's one where all students still have the possibilities afforded to them after secondary school.
What surprises me the most about how students are responding to de-streaming is a lot of them say they're having fun. The classroom dynamic has really changed from, sitting at the desk, pencil, paper, worksheets, to students just engaging in dialogue and building off of each other's ideas, working on the vertical surfaces and just collaborating.
We believe deeply in the sense that success builds success, and as we work with our students, how do we continue to provide them more opportunities where they see themselves successful, they see themselves as students, and they see themselves as achieving academically, while at the same time feeling a great sense of belonging in the schools they're at.
We did a lot of whiteboard work, and I think that was really interesting on seeing how different people think in different other math problems, because some people are just really good at multiplication, or they just have really good mental math, while others draw it out. I think those were really interesting to learn the strategies that others use, and I think that it helped me interact with people with more in math, because usually in math it's I just do it by myself, but this allowed me to understand how other people approach it as well.
I think what surprised me the most about how students are responding to de-streaming is that it seems natural to them, that I think it's the adults that are hung up on needing to stream children and needing to put them in certain spaces and places and courses. I've seen students collaborating really well, working together and learning together in spaces that, feel warm and inviting and feel like good learning is happening. I've really seen the change of, students really being labeled at the end of grade 8, like this kid is applied, this kid is academic. And I've seen that shift to us talking more about here are the strengths, here are the needs.
This is the best, it's the best thing, de-streamed. I really am all for it. I'm passionate about it. It's just such an amazing thing. And I hope we can keep de-streaming, because it's wrong of us to try and streamline kids at such an early age. Not fair of us to be closing off their paths.
I remember grade 9 and a lot in grade 10 as well. We did a lot of group work together. And personally, that works better for me. I feel like making that decision from grade 9 might have been tough. So I'm kind of glad that it was kind of streamlined out and it made it flow better into whatever class I wanted to do.
I think it helped because it was just one class to get together. So you got to learn different strategies, everybody's strategies, because the teacher had to teach according to different people's learning. And so it wasn't really separated with how they would have academic and applied. So you just got to learn it as one.
I think the most common misconception about de-streaming is that we somehow lost something, that we lost a pathway that was somehow helpful to students. That is simply not the case. That pathway was not helpful to students. They graduated at a rate of 30% below those students who engaged in an academic pathway, and that was unacceptable. There was no status quo that was better than what we've got.
Large bodies of research have really determined that streaming is a very deliberate act. It's where we separate kids into particular categories. Now, what we've learned as a province and an education system is when we do this sifting and this sorting of students, it really happens to be along race, class, and gender lines. So it became apparent to school boards and to the ministry that this was something that needed to be addressed.
This is about a broader set of opportunities for all students, and that their student-specific needs will be addressed. So I think when parents are thinking about de-streaming, they're thinking about this is different from what I experienced, and how is this going to affect my child? And it's our job to reassure them that, in fact, it will affect your child in a positive manner.
By changing our pedagogy, and by changing the way we assess, and by changing the way we teach, we're opening up those access points for students.
My perspective coming from the school board to now being a principal is that the thing is happening and people are doing the work, and we're going to continue to engage in that work. I really, really feel there's no going back this time.
I think that the impact of not de-streaming is a bigger problem. So if we de-stream and we leave the pathways open for them, I think that's going to help them much more than if we don't de-stream and they have these doors closed before they even see the opportunities that they have ahead of them.
Central staff, teachers, administrators have all worked together to think about how do we make education better for young people. It really does take a village, and we found that village at the Waterloo Region District School Board.
Well said, Associate Director San Vicente.
So I would really close off, pardon me, I would really close off by saying that what we've learned from de-streaming is that it does increase student access to post-secondary pathways for all students. And what we've seen from our early data is that our pass rates have remained relatively stable compared to when there was academic and applied and only academic. And we know that students are better served actually in the university pathway courses in grade 11 and 12, better served by getting a slightly lower mark in a university pathway course than they are by earning higher marks in college or workplace destination courses. And this is something that continues to hold true even after they graduate. So I guess I'm waiting for Allison to chair. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's worked. It's been it's been a real team effort, and so we are just really excited by what's to come in the future.
And to finish her last slide so she can cough in peace, it just says, thanks to the Trailblazers, this work would not have been possible without the innovation and support of deeply committed WRDSB staff who led professional learning sessions, co-planned, co-taught, and co-debrief with their colleagues, and who opened their classrooms to their peers to demonstrate best practices.
Thank you.
And she's back for questions.
Yes.
Trustees, are there any questions? Trustee Wasim?
I feel like it doesn't feel right to just jump straight into a question. So a quick comment is super inspiring to see, echoing everything that Allison has just shared, but also really want to take a moment to any staff of the WRDSB who might be watching this, that it really takes visionaries to create something that hasn't been done before and to execute on something where there's no clear goalpost just yet. So truly remarkable. Like I felt chills at points watching that video, and I could see some of my classmates, thinking of people that I've known who've gone through these journeys and how much they would have benefited from this. So, really it's remarkable to see this work in action. As for my question, I was wondering, is the de-streaming process currently only for grades 9 and 10, or is there any plan in place for it to apply at the 11 and 12 level as well?
Through the chair to respond to the trustee's question, there is no plan for it to apply at grade 11 and 12 because the grade 11 and 12 curriculum we know changes from academic and applied to be workplace destination, college destination, university destination, or mixed. And so it is a more appropriate time in grade 11 and 12 for students to be making post-secondary pathway destination choices. And so really what we wanted to do by moving beyond de-stream curriculum in grade 9 and single streaming in grade 10 was at the moment students are making those pathway destination choices to preserve the greatest number of choices they had.
Thank you, Trustee Estresta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too will start with a comment. It is not very often that you get to see a 10% and 9% jump when it comes to student outcomes. So congratulations, that's a momentous stat to be able to see there. So have to start there. You answered a lot of my questions already. So I'm going to, I guess this is more of a less so on the actual application, but some thoughts on data collection. We knew that there was a social stigma that was often applied when you were in an applied stream, right? And while it's been some years since I've been in high school, I still remember what that meant for the social systems that we built within the high school that I went to. Have we thought about tracking some of the impacts specifically to de-streaming to our student mental health and wellness data that we're tracking, just to see if we're getting anything that can correlate to those choices and how that's affecting the social stigma or the lack of social stigma if we're seeing changes towards belonging.
Through the chair to respond to the trustee, that's something we absolutely could look at. Now I will turn to my trusted colleague here just to say that one of the things that would be a challenge in that is we wouldn't have the data for the baseline, and that all students now are participating in de-streamed and single-stream classrooms. But it would be interesting to see if over that time they do have increased feelings of well-being and confidence and belonging.
And just on a follow-up on that, there was a, sorry, Dr. Lane, if you want to say something, I'm sorry, I went straight into a follow-up.
Through the chair to the trustees, to answer the trustee's question, the only other limitation we would have there is typically our well-being surveys are anonymous, so some of that direct mapping is a little bit challenging. We can certainly look at things in terms of cohorts, but there are some limitations there in terms of how direct the mapping can be. In the future, there may be opportunities to do that kind of thing, but obviously the strength of the data is better when you're going one-to-one rather than using cohort or sort of other identifying markers. But yeah, just a limitation, but certainly something that can be explored.
Well, and we wouldn't want to infer if we were mapping a tier 2 group over to a de-streamed and making inference that we don't want to make an inference for. So I appreciate your answer, and apologies again for cutting you off before my follow-up. My follow-up here is for those students who would have self-selected as applied, are there additional skills or activities that we are completing in those de-streamed courses where we're trying to improve their confidence or reassure them that they belong in a de-streamed program to also grow that skill set?
Through the chair to respond to the trustee, I would say that when we look at our conditions for learning, that's where we'd see those different ways of engaging in pedagogy, so how we're teaching. And you heard students referencing there's a lot more collaborative time, a lot more conversation. We've known for a very long time in education that talk is necessary for learning. But what we did was we created those opportunities for students to talk to each other across streamed environments. And so what we've done now is we've created those opportunities for discussion and collaboration, also public charting, putting their work up for others to see and for everyone to collaborate on. Those are things that are making a difference for students and would be things that just allow us to think about in an expansive way, how does a student demonstrate what they know, and those kinds of inclusive practices, creating welcoming, belonging, sort of critical thinking spaces.
Trustee Johnson.
Thank you, through the chair. Gonna get my teacher hat out for a moment. I'm a former grade 8 teacher here, and every year I would pretty much beg my students, like, take the academic. I teach, in grade 8 we teach academic, just take the academic. It broke my heart to see these young people whose brains are not fully developed making decisions that were going to impact them long term in their lives. So this is so exciting to see, and I'm completely supportive of it. Please know this is wonderful. Quick question, maybe not a quick one. I'm certain for secondary teachers, this was quite disruptive to how they were accustomed to delivering their programs. And I just would like maybe a short version of what was done to support the staff at the secondary level with this shift.
Thank you. Through the chair to respond to the trustee's question, I'm going to reframe the word disruptive to be paradigm shifting. And it was absolutely paradigm shifting for some of our educators to begin to wrap their minds around the fact that we would have all students in the same learning environment. So some of the things that we did across the board, we did lots of central professional development supported by a large consultant team. We worked in partnership with experts, especially in math, with folks like Peter Liljedahl, who was really influential in helping us rethink what we were doing in mathematics classrooms. We had de-streaming teachers in all of our secondary schools to provide on-site job-embedded just-in-time support to their colleagues, and also had classrooms that we deemed as demonstration classrooms so that teachers had the opportunity to come in and see what their colleagues were doing and how they were doing that. And we were also able to support individual learning with those teams of consultants who went out to schools and helped engage in professional learning with small subject-specific teams to support that paradigm shift in pedagogy.
Before I take the next trustee question, can I have a motion to extend? Trustee Woodcock, seconded Trustee Meisner, all in favor? Thank you. Trustee Watson?
Thank you. I wanted to piggyback on the last question. So, from what I understand, there's a broad range of learners. And have we opened dialogue with our educators and talked about some of the challenges? It's a rigorous curriculum. Have we talked about some of the problems and some, potential solutions with just trying to teach, from one end to the other and making sure that these kids are successful?
Through the chair to respond to the trustee's question, yes, we had lots of conversation and we welcomed early on teaching staff who were having difficulty making those changes. And one of the things that we pointed to at the time was that our colleagues in kindergarten to grade 8 do this every day with the same kids. And so it can be done. And so we used that as our starting point. And again, we kept reiterating those core beliefs. And what we fronted was that if we had the opportunity to learn different ways of engaging in instruction with our students and different ways of assessing their progress and different ways of engaging in relationship with those students, as well as holding them to high expectations, that they could all meet that high bar of success.
Thank you. And through you to staff. So, I think there's just a little bit of a difference from, like grade 1 and 2 to trying to teach concepts in math and English. And and what I've been hearing, there's a lack of funding and resources from the province to help support teachers. And so, is there, are we deficient in that? Like, do we need more support and funding from the ministry, whether it's EAs or whatever, to help in classrooms? Because it's great to celebrate and, and I'm not dismissing the success, but, are we doing all that we can to support our staff at the high school level and making sure that they have all the resources that they need to be successful?
Through the chair to respond to the trustee, I would never say we have enough funding in public education. And if I could point to specific things that I think would be worth advocating for, I would love to see de-streaming focused teachers come back in every secondary school. One of the things I think I would also advocate for is we have math itinerant and literacy itinerant teachers working in grades 7 and 8 to help us close those gaps for those learners who may have been streamed into an applied pathway. And we just haven't had the funding to support having enough of those teachers to go around. They have been fundamental in our success in grade 9 de-streamed math because they do the gap closing before students walk through the door in high school. And so if we had the ability to have more of those teaching staff in our system, I think we would all welcome them.
Trustee Piatkowski.
Thank you. Through you to colleagues. It's not a question. It's an observation from having sat in on a de-stream science class at KCI last school year. What I observed was traditionally the stronger students who might have been streamed into the academic stream in the past were working with the students that might have been in the applied stream. And it wasn't the wise person at the front of the room and everybody taking notes. It was people working together to find the right answer. And I think that it actually benefited the stronger students as well because they got to show leadership. They got to to explain how they got the answer to other students, which is often more meaningful than just writing down the right answer and getting your report card and saying woohoo. They've actually taken on a kind of an assistant educator role within the classroom, and I think everybody benefited from that. So we need to keep doing this. I think it's clearly working. The statistics bear that out. So thank you to everybody who has been working to implement this.
Thank you. I too had the, I'll call it privilege of being in a few de-streamed classrooms, and I think they're called thinking classrooms because it's random groupings, it's not groupings by ability. Students appreciate it because they get to know everybody in the class, but they also appreciate it because they get to talk about their thinking, which is a crucial element of learning backed up by research. So thank you very much, and I hope we are able to continue this with or without ministry funding.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And now, HR Manager Aluwalia, thank you for your patience. And Manager Wenena, the accessibility plan update.
Through the chair to the Board of Trustees, good evening. By way of inclusive introduction, I will also share that I have brown skin, black hair, dark eyes. Today I'm wearing a black and white dress, and I use she, her pronouns. This is the third board report this evening. We heard an amazing math report and de-streaming report. Great news was shared. Congrats to my colleagues. Two very difficult acts to follow. There was a video that gave Trustee Wasim chills. So I will just say that the report that we're about to present, I think, will put a wonderful exclamation point on an evening full of good news. As a school board, we are accountable to the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, or the AODA. We articulate our goals and objectives through our board's multi-year accessibility plan, which is the focus of our presentation. I am happy to co-present tonight's progress updates on our multi-year accessibility plan, which is work that we do on the land traditionally used by the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Chinootan people. By way of overview, tonight we're going to be sharing a little bit about some accessibility audits that we were participating in this school year. We're going to share progress updates, and we are also going to highlight one of our projects that we focused on this year on website accessibility. Our presentation tonight will be highlighting the work and the leadership of members of our Accessibility Committee. These individuals support our goal of meeting plan objectives. Leads have been having regular one-on-one meetings with Human Rights Officer Esther Wainaina. Through these regular touch points, HRO Wainaina is able to get an up-to-date picture on where we are at with plan objectives. She does an incredible job supporting our AODA and accessibility work, so I want to specifically mention that and thank her for her commitment to this portfolio. Sincere gratitude to our Accessibility Committee members, and a warm welcome to some new staff who will be joining our committee this coming school year. There are just a few things that I wanted to highlight this evening. On January 27th, we received an email from the AODA that we were selected for a desk audit. The Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility conducts desk audits on selected organizations to confirm that they are in compliance with the AODA and its accessibility standards. We were required to share updates and information related to some of the integrated accessibility standards requirements. We submitted the desk audit by the February due date. There was some back and forth, and on April 23rd, we received confirmation that our audit was complete and that we would not be requested of any more information at this time. So a good experience and a good outcome. Also of note, all organizations that fall under the AODA are required to submit a compliant report by December 31st, 2025. We are in good position to have that completed and submitted well before the deadline, and we are anticipating a fall submission. And finally, I will just share that the coming school year, 2025-26, It's our last year of our current 5-year multi-year accessibility plan. This coming school year, not only will we be working hard to meet our goals of this current plan, but we'll also be creating a new 5-year multi-year accessibility plan that will be put forward to trustees for approval in the spring of 2026. And that multi-year accessibility plan will be valid from 2026 to 2031. Now, you would have already received an accessibility plan update with progress updates for our current multi-year accessibility plan, also found at Folio 38. I will now pass it over to Human Rights Officer Wainaina, who is going to share a high overview of our progress.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'd also want to begin by offering accessible introduction. I am visibly Black woman. I'm wearing blue and gold framed eyeglasses, and I'm also wearing a red T-shirt, which has the words "I support accessibility, inclusion, and equity." This was part of the Red Shirt campaign during the National Accessibility Week this year that took place during between May 26th and July 1st. Oh yeah, and I have sister locks. My hair is black and has sister locks. I use she/her pronouns, and as human rights and equity advisor introduced me, I am a human rights officer with the accessibility portfolio. So I'm going to take us through the progress updates. We usually do this every year. We present to the trustees what has been happening with our multi-year accessibility plan over the course of the year. The board's multi-accessibility plan includes objectives and outcomes for the 5 accessibility standards outlined in the AODA. That is customer service, employment, information and communication, physical environment, transportation, and in addition, the board's multi-year accessibility plan also includes systemic standards. What follows is a high-level overview of progress in the board's multi-year plan, multi-accessibility plan, and as mentioned, a more detailed account has been provided. So in the next slide, I will start with the customer service standard. Under the customer service standard, we've been tracking 3 objectives that are outlined in the board's multi-accessibility plan. I will say MIAP, just as an acronym going forward. So 3 objectives under the customer service standard. The first one is accessibility training, and this is the accessibility awareness training that is recommended and required by the Ontario Human Rights Code in collaboration with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, the AODA. Under these objectives, one of the outcomes that we have been tracking is whether the training itself was meaningful and helpful for new staff who are taking this course for the first time. And just to provide more information, that all staff are required to take the accessibility awareness training, and this is a one-time only training that we do. Plans are underway to revisit that requirement and see whether we can accommodate a more regular or more iterative kind of training for accessibility awareness. So as mentioned, one of the things we've been tracking is whether the training has, what kind of impact the training has had, And over the course of this year, a survey question was added on to this particular training module. We added the question asking whether the training has helped improve understanding of accessibility. And by the end of the staff online PD cycle, we received 99.96% satisfaction, meaning that of all the responses that we got, 99.96 answered yes, that the training has improved understanding of accessibility. The other outcomes that we track under customer service is policy and procedure review. This was implemented in 2022 by introducing the policy review guide, of which I know that the trustees are familiar with that guide. And what that guide seeks to do is embed understanding of accessibility, inclusion, and equitable outcomes when reviewing or revisiting policies. The same guide, we have a guideline that is similar to the policy review guide that we use to observe what's happening with the board procedures as well. The third item that we track under customer service is feedback processes. This has been ongoing since 2023 into 2024. We've engaged stakeholder groups for feedback and received feedback through the Qualtrics survey platform. Going forward, we are revisiting the design and offering of the feedback survey together with research staff in research department in order to better define what the process should look like, especially as we are approaching a renewal of the MIAP in the coming school year. The next slide, we have an overview of the objectives and outcomes that we've been tracking under employment standards. Again, under employment standards, we have policy and procedures that should be reviewed to align with AODA requirements. Specifically, those are policies and procedures that are related to workplace accommodation, inclusive hiring, and individual emergency plans and processes. So over the course of 2023-24 and into 2025 year, I have had discussions and updates from representatives from HR who were involved also in the review of Board Policy 5000, that's employment, addressing fair, equitable, and inclusive hiring, Administrative Procedure 3370, which addresses recruitment and selection, and ensuring that these policy and procedures embed the guidelines under the AODA for inclusive hiring and accommodation plans. The other, as mentioned, yes, we also track, we are in constant conversations and updates, meetings with our employee wellness on the accommodation plans. And we've also been engaging in collaborative PD learning that is related to the duty to accommodate and bias-free hiring practices. Under the emergency plans outcomes, we have achieved over the period of the 2024-25 school year, creation of the individual emergency response plan template, which was also reviewed during the AODA audit process. And again, that process really helped us identify gaps and implement best practice when it comes to the templates and procedures that are being used. Next slide. Are the outcomes within the information and communication standard area. I will not go deeply into this because we will have a more in-depth presentation on the work that has taken place, but just to briefly provide an overview that we have been tracking the implementation of the web accessibility compliance project, which looks or which addresses accessibility barriers within our website design and website content, whether it's existing or future content creation. This has specifically been aligned to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, level 2.0, that is a requirement under the AODA. As mentioned, I will let the next part of our presentation go more deeply into that section. The next slide presents the outcomes that we've been tracking under physical environment, which is also known as the design of built environment standard. Our main objective here is identifying and addressing barriers to accessible built environment. This has been an ongoing project with our facilities department, always doing all they can to identify situations that are coming up, and also being keen to ensure that new schools that are coming up also align with the AODA requirements for accessibility of built environment. Under the physical environment, we also have been discussing the development of design standards for both vision and hearing impairments and related accessibility upgrades. This is ongoing, and we anticipate that within the coming year, at least in the fall of 2025, we will achieve the development of a checklist that can be implemented across all schools. Accessibility standards, we continue to update, or staff in the facilities department continue to update the website on accessibility standards by schools. And this is done on a quarterly basis, so we're expecting the next update to be by the end of this month. Facilities department staff also continue to identify and address student needs for advanced planning of facility-related accommodations. The next slide presents the objectives we've been tracking under transportation, and this we do collaboratively with the Student Transportation Services of Waterloo Region, who are part of the Accessibility Committee. The main objective there, again, is to design monitor service for home-to-school transportation in keeping with the board's policy and procedures related to special education, as well as accessibility procedures. We also support STSWR in reviewing their existing practices, their procedures, to ensure that they reflect current best practices under the AODA. That would also include, that support would also include addressing organizational culture, whether it's trainings or training to STSWR staff, or whether it's expanding that training to the third-party bus companies that they engage in providing accessible school transportation. And lastly, in the next slide, we have the systemic objectives, which, as I mentioned, are now part of the requirement of the AODA, but were embedded within our board's MyApp, just to ensure that transition and prioritizing of accessibility across the board. And so under systemic standards, there has been continued efforts to develop and deliver system-wide professional development, again, in collaboration with human resources, focusing on the duty to accommodate persons with disabilities. There has also been ongoing collaborations between the Human Rights Department with the SPECED consultants to deliver school-based learning on understanding inclusive communities that welcome individuals of all abilities. The Human Rights Department was our Human Rights branch, also in early 2022-23, created the Human Rights Policy and the code-based complaints procedures. I have mentioned the work of prioritizing accessibility as embedded within the systemic standards, and this has been done again through continuous learning from the audits and compliance reporting that we have been submitting on a timely basis, revisiting and revising the accessibility policy and procedures. We've also engaged in leadership and coordination of the accessibility committee's work, implementation of, through learning with the Abilities Center based in Ottawa, we are engaging in the implementation of an accessibility improvement plan as a result of that learning with senior team and managers that took place in fall of 2024. Last but not least, towards prioritizing accessibility, we have system-wide messaging and activities that are offered during the National Accessibility Week, and this we have done. Last year, there was the conference or symposium, Building Communities, Addressing Ableism in Education symposium that took place over that National Accessibility Week. And this year, we had different programming that we offered during that week. And so with that, the next slide, what we try to do is we've been tracking the outcomes within the MyApp, outcomes in achieving MyApp objectives from 2021-22, the first year of its operational inception, all the way through to this year. And this, what you see in this slide is a presentation of aggregate outcomes throughout that period to date. And so just as very quickly, we have been in total tracking 40 outcomes within the multi-year accessibility plan. Out of that 40, this year we've seen the completion and successful achievement of 35 of those outcomes. And so we are nearing a 90% achievement rate, and as Human Rights and Equity Advisor Alualia mentioned, we are looking forward to reviewing our successes over that period and developing another plan in the coming year. Thank you very much for your attention and engagement as I presented this. I will now pass the mic, although it won't move, you'll have to come here, to Chief Information Officer Nasser Mohammed.
Through the chair to the trustees, thank you everyone. Good evening. Before I start, I just want to say IT is proud to support the work that Esther and Diva is doing, and I'm just glad to present here the work has been done over the past year, what we have learned, and what we are going to do in the next steps. So we will start with a brief review of XSCB, an accessibility tool that we introduced in the summer of 2024 for a number of our websites. Following that, we'll share the lessons we have learned from that experience, discuss our current efforts and future direction, and finally outline the next steps of our ongoing website accessibility work. Let's begin with XSB, the third-party solution that we have been using for the last year. XSB primarily consists of two parts. The first part is there, you see the icon there, that's on our website, main website, you can see it, it's appears on the left side. There's the website widget. This widget enables visitors to our websites to dynamically select adjustments to the user interface. This includes modifying fonts, font sizes, colors, and other visual elements to suit their individual needs. The widget has been made available on the main website and secondary school websites for the last year. Second part of the XSB is it provides reporting. And these are monthly reports that XSB produce for us that detail accessibility issues and that XSB has identified and mitigated for us. Slide. I want to turn our focus on what we've learned so far from XSB. The team has been working with XSB for a year, and as our understanding of this work has evolved, we have reached a number of conclusions regarding our website accessibility needs and identified targets for our next round of improvements. We need accessibility solutions that are affordable, scalable, sustainable, and comprehensive, yet not overwhelming, and ideally integrated directly into our websites from the ground up. We also need compliance tools that can cover all the pages and features of all our websites, including secondary and elementary. These tools must run on our schedule and are on demand, provide data suitable for analysis and reporting, and allow us to prepare data in response to potential ministry audits. These needs will be the target of our next round of website accessibility improvements. So moving forward to just these needs we have identified and requirements beyond those provided by our current solution, we are proud to introduce the next evolution of our approach to supporting web accessibility through our own website accessibility widget and our own suite of accessibility auditing tools. There's a lot of tongue twisters here, sorry. I apologize for that. So let's talk about our new accessibility widget. It offers significant advantages. It is built starting with an off-the-shelf open source framework. What it means that we can see and alter the source code behind the tool, verify its privacy and security, and contribute framework improvement ourselves. It does not send data to a third party and does not rely on a single vendor. It can be customized with features tailored to our specific needs. We have full control over our branding, language, and other elements. And as an added benefit, which we all love to do, is our new widget costs $0 in licensing costs, which is greatly appreciated. Our new widget is also less complex than the previous solution, and its features are tailored specifically to our websites. We can add features as needed, matching the functionality to the design of our websites and the specific needs of our community. So a key philosophy behind our new approach is that our solutions will be built on, not bolted on. Our widget will become a structural part of our websites, integrated directly into the software that runs them. This makes accessibility features a foundational part of our websites. Updates to the accessibility features will be in lockstep with all the other feature updates to our websites. This creates opportunities for directly aligning the functionality of the widget with the underlying code and structure of our web pages, allowing us to target specific features of our website. Additionally, the widget will be paired with our website translation solution, aligning with our belief that access is access. In addition to the widget, we have developed our own automated accessibility audit software. This tool will allow us to visit web pages of our choice and run 2 complete suites of accessibility tests. We can audit as many pages or sites as we want, as often as we want, and to at any level of compliance of our choice. It collects and categorizes the issues found and stores these issues in a database, making them available for comprehensive analysis and reporting. This provides concrete, actionable data and enables us to address potential ministry audits. The same audits can also run for websites before they are published, so as part of our quality assurance process. So all website code will run through the pre-production process. Like if the code fails, it is flagged for remediation before being deployed. This ensures that if our website has, if our website code, I'm hurrying, so thank you. I'm from Newfoundland, so we speak fast. I'm just saying that. Sorry. Okay. This ensures that if our website code has accessibility issues, it's solved before code is made available to the public. So with the introduction of this tool, we are fundamentally shifting our perspective to view accessibility as a quality assurance problem. This embodies our commitment that accessibility isn't an afterthought. Next slide, please. So to address current accessibility issues, we are undertaking a significant effort to fix our website theme. Accessibility improvements and compliance are driving this entire effort. We are replacing old website design technologies with current modern ones, integrating our new accessibility widget and leveraging our new audits and the quality assurance capabilities. This effort aligns our web design technologies, our QA quality assurance pipeline, the accessibility widget, and our accessibility audits, all working together. Our initial accessibility targets are aligned with the legislative requirements, but as those targets are met, we will adjust our QA targets, continually aiming for higher goals. This makes accessibility a continual effort, not merely a one-off project. Okay. So please note that this is not a website redesign. Is there a question, or I should stop, or continue? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay. All right. Thank you. So just want to emphasize that please know that this is not a website redesign, but rather a re-implementation of our current design. And our websites won't look different, but they will be of much higher quality, and their accessibility issues will be addressed. Next slide, please. So finally, let's look at our timelines for this important work. In summer 2025, we plan to have the first release of our revised theme. This release will target the internal WRDSB Tech at Home website. We will also release and deploy our new widget for the Tech at Home. The Tech at Home is a small site and will serve as a focused proof of concept. And after that proof of concept has been completed, other sites will be addressed in a phased approach in order of increasing website complexity. Working in phases allows us to ensure a smooth transition for website visitors and continuous improvement of our tools. Next slide, please. And with that, thank you for your time and attention today. We are confident that this next round of changes will significantly improve the accessibility of web content for all users in the WRDSB community. And with that, I'll pass on to Deepa.
Just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to share our accessibility updates with you all.
Well, thank you all. That was a great presentation, and I must say, this one from the Chief Information Officer filled in a lot of blanks that we had last year when we had not yet got started. So, trustees, are there any questions? Trustee Wasim? Trustee Estuesta?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I do apologize to all three of you because accessibility, I am an accessibility designate for the ACA, so it's all coming. First of all, 90% achievement rate, that's stellar. Let's start there. And anyone who has never gone through a desk audit before, it is an incredibly intensive process. You have to drop everything to answer those questions. And just when you think you get the last round of questions, there's more that comes. So congratulations on surviving a desk audit as well. I have one question and a follow-up. I'll start with the one that I want to put attention to first. Obviously, PDF remediation, right? Like that, in your ICT, the red plan here is on accessible documentation. That is a challenge across all institutions. So I'm not surprised that that is the one that's there, because understanding about the amount of work that's going in there. Is the expectation for the communications guide, other accessibility guides that are coming through with this, that we'll see a decrease of need for PDF remediation or other document remediation as that gets the uptick?
Through the chair, I'm going to pass that over to Human Rights Officer Wainaina, who's been doing some work in this area with the communications department.
Thank you. And through the chair, as you were asking that question, Trustee Esther, I was glancing at Heather Hughes, our Senior Communications Manager, because we just recently, last week, completed an accessible communications training with an accessibility consultant who's based here in Waterloo. He's also part of the Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee. And yes, PD remediation is where we started and ended that conversation with. So we expect that this will transition to a lot of support being offered to the system through that training. It will also culminate in the development, which communications team have already started developing an accessible communications guide, as we've been tracking it as well. And so we hope that this will come through, actually high hopes that it will come through in the next year. Thank you.
And as my follow-up, I'm so glad that you're using a consultant who is part of the community and has connections. Sometimes we see in the types of services that are provided, there isn't a connection to the community, or they're often promising that they can have compliance where they can't meet compliance, which is my second question here. I'm so glad to hear that we are building an in-house tool, because often these third-party providers are saying that they provide compliance when they don't, and then when we go through an audit process, we're actually dinged, and then there's fines associated or whatever. With that process and the types of, not to get too nerdy, if you're looking at, booklets or other ways of thinking about building out or CSS Swisher or whatever you're thinking about here, will you be looking at following phases where we're looking at PDF remediation or communications remediation that is outside of that as well? So we spend less time remediating afterwards and we catch it before it's published, as well as like a phase 2 of the widget or other pieces that you're building as a tech team.
I'll have a fast stab at it, and help me out if I don't get it. So through the chair, from what I understand, the way that the accessibility project has been undertaken within our ITS department, it will embed an audit or a crawler kind of function within the tool itself, which will identify and flag non-accessible content in all our web pages, websites, and related pages. So that, and again, that technical in-depth information, I would defer to the experts, but that's the understanding, and it is most certainly the requirement under the WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guide. We are aiming for to start at the 2.0 AAA level, and that should include all those features, accessible features within that guide, and aiming to scale up to 2.1 in the next iteration.
Amazing, thank you.
Trustee Wasim.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I also just wanted to commend the efforts across, obviously the physical and the digital spaces, but particularly in transportation, I saw that as issues would come up, the team was ready to respond to them, and there was a very high satisfaction rate. So thank you for that in the physical report that the trustees received. I really appreciated that. Question is for the CIO. So with the theme redesign that's coming up, who was involved in the consultation process for coming up with this redesign plan? Was there a consultant? Was it committees, the staff? Who was part of that process?
just going to defer that to Esther, if you won't mind. I think it should.
So, given through the chair, the requirement under the AODA is very clear. WCAG guidelines are very extensive and concise in terms of what features are needed. And so we were very fortunate to have someone in IT who could pick up on that. So the consultation that happened was really, we talked about it. I told him this is the AODA compliance requirements, and he was very much ready and willing to pick up on that. So shout out to James. I know I don't know if he's watching, but I had tried to get him here. He would have totally, taken that question. But shout out to James for his amazing, amazing work. All this has been achieved. If you recall, the last time we were here, we were going off the third-party widget. We had to rely on a third-party vendor for this, and we've moved it over the period of a few months. I think James picked it up in January, and we are now looking at launching the project. So I don't know if I answered. I gave too much.
Maybe I could just add as well, through the chair to the trustees, that I just want to acknowledge CIO Mohammed for recognizing that we have internal staff with the expertise to produce these materials. And so thank you to him for putting the resources in that area and recognizing that, yes, we can create this in-house, and just having the vision for that.
Shout out James and Mohammed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And a question about the physical environment. What are the challenges on the objective to develop a standard for vision and hearing impairment relating upgrades? That one obviously has some challenges to be overcome.
Yeah, so Human Rights Officer Wainana has been having conversations with the Senior Manager Dallin on that topic, so I'm going to pass it over to her to share about those conversations.
Yeah, through the chair, again, these are gaps that we recognize that we don't have in-house expertise to develop a standard for vision and loss that would meet the AODA requirements. So Ron and his team have been reaching out to consultants, architectural consultants, to develop the checklist that we need to implement vision and hearing loss standards or design standards. And the challenge there has been they engaged one consultant last year, and the results that came back were not satisfactory. So they've had to go back and re-engage on this again. We expect that with the current consultation, there should be more positive movement in that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Well, I have to get people's titles correctly. So Human Rights Manager Aliwale, Human Rights Officer Wainana, Chief Information Officer Nasir. Thank you very much. That was very comprehensive, and it's very satisfying to see how many of the goals have been achieved when we still have a year to work on. So I know that was a lot of hard work, meeting with people and so on. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So trustees, there's a recommendation to approve the membership in standing committees. The term is from September 1st of this year to November 14th of next year, 2026, which coincides with the trustee term. The terms of reference for each committee is attached, and so can I have a motion to approve that recommendation? Trustee Johnson, seconded by Trustee Meisner. Is there any discussion on the standing committee membership? So all in favor? That is unanimous, that is carried. Thank you. Ontario Public School Boards Association update, Trustee Johnson.
Through the chair, thank you. I actually was shortening this while the evening was going along. From June 12th to 14th, it was my privilege to attend the annual general meeting for OPSPA, the Ontario Public School Board Association, along with Trustee Piatkowski and Trustee Woodcock, who is now serving as our president of OPSPA. And she's a charming president, I have to say. Our keynote speaker was Carl Subban, a well-known Canadian hockey dad. He's also a retired school teacher and principal. As the voting delegate of this year's AGM, we looked at the auditor's report of our finances, and several policy resolutions were brought forward. We then elected our first new vice president for the remainder of the 24 to 26 term. Several stellar trustees put their name forward for this position, and each shared their vision and passion for public education in Ontario. I am pleased to share that Jan Johnstone, trustee from the Blue Water District School Board, was elected. During our regional meetings, we elected trustees for several working groups and for regional councils. OPSPA AGM brought trustees together from across the province. OPSPA is a vital support for both trustees and our public education system as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Are there any questions? Trustee Piatkowski?
Yes, thank you. It's appropriate that we've extended the meeting because my question is on extended day. Of course, last year's experience that people had trying to register for extended day was a bit of a disaster, and we acknowledged that and resolved to do better, and I think we are. But I'm still hearing complaints, concerns through the media and through direct communications from parents, and I'm wondering if staff could indicate what is being done to resolve those concerns as we move forward.
Superintendent Landry.
Yeah, thank you through the chair, and thank you for the question. So our registration for extended day programs opened on June 16th, and since then over 4,600 students have successfully registered for programs for next year. In our before school program, we have an average of 2,855 students have registered, representing about 70% of the available spots. The after school program, we have an average of 3,500 students registered, representing about 87% of the spots. Staff are aware of some minor technical issues that occurred early on last week with the registration process, but staff quickly connected with the region and the vendor to identify the source of the issue and get it resolved. And we haven't heard much in the way of technical concerns since then. We are hearing feedback from the community around wait lists. Their children be on wait lists, so we appreciate the challenge that presents, but we unfortunately are capped at schools in terms of how many spots we can accommodate. We're going to continue to monitor registrations throughout the summer and into September, and we might be able to add some additional sections where staffing and program demand allow for it, but those decisions will have to be made in September. So not specifically addressing the question in terms of how we're following up with the vendor. We did do that last week, but we have not been made aware of any significant technical issues since then.
Trustee Woodcock?
Trustee Piatkowski took my question.
Trustee Estoesta?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a follow-up, sometimes I think it might be helpful for us to remind people that there's FAQs or pieces on the website for that. So would it be best through you to staff to continue to use the contact us page if there's additional questions that could be answered by the staff? Sorry.
Through the chair, correct, yes, correct.
Future agenda items. Trustee Ramsey.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mindful of the hour, I'm going to dispense with some of the stuff in there, but I'll be sending the full written motion to Ms. Ardell. So this is a motion to rescind a previously adopted board motion, and I'll just start off with the first whereas. On June 28, 2021, the School Resource Officer Review Committee recommended to the Waterloo Region District School Board the board as follows, and it just lists what was recommended to the board. And whereas the board adopted the recommendations in its entirety on June 28, 2021, and whereas on December the 4th, 2024, the Legislative Assembly for the Province of Ontario, the OLA, approved the following motion, that in the opinion of this House, the Ministry of Education should encourage and support all publicly funded school boards to work in partnership with police services by maintaining community school liaison officer programs to support relevant programming, building positive relationships between students, officers, and educators, and ensuring schools remain safe and healthy learning environments. And whereas on May 29, 2025, the Minister of Education for the Province of Ontario introduced Bill 33, Supporting Children and Students Act 2025, which includes a requirement for boards to work with local police services to provide them with access to school premises, permit them to participate in school programs, and implement school resource officer programs. And whereas the motion passed by the legislature on December the 4th, 2024, and the introduction of Bill 33 on May 29, 2025, requires a different approach for boards to work in partnership with police services. And whereas on June 4th, 2025, the Chief of Police of the Waterloo Regional Police Service believes there is a role for them to play within an educational school environment as required. And whereas it is now necessary to rescind certain sections of the original board motion in order to comply with the intentions of the legislature. Therefore, be it resolved that the Waterloo Region District School Board hereby rescinds paragraphs 2, 3, and 6 of the original board motion that was adopted on June 28, 2021.
Do you have a second, Trustee Ramsey? Trustee Watson, thank you. Trustee Watson?
Thank you. So I'll just start, mine's shorter. Whereas the professional development dismantling whiteness at WO has many parents upset and confused, and whereas trustees were assured in the past that the tenets of critical race theory were not being taught in WRDSB schools, and whereas many concerned parents want transparency and accountability, and whereas there wasn't broad consultation for the anti-racism policy, therefore be it resolved that the trustees be provided with a written report early in 2025-26 school year that would provide full context and information about the professional development dismantling whiteness at WO school, as well as next steps, and that the anti-racism policy currently being developed be released to parent councils for broader consultation.
Do you have a seconder for that motion, Trustee Ramsey? Thank you. And can I have a motion to adjourn and begin our summer holiday? Trustee Wasim, seconded by Trustee Johnson. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you, everybody, and trustees and staff, enjoy your break.